muted on my end. Oh, that's always wonderful. Okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of Wick TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Today, we're going to be talking about hookup culture. What is it? Is it something that is good for young people and people in general? Is it helping people kind of throw off the shackles and inhibitions of the past, right? Is it freeing us? Or is it creating more problems than it was worth? Is it destroying our ability to bond, men and women's ability to bond? Is it causing a loneliness epidemic? We're going to talk about that. We got some great guests here today to discuss it. One more will be joining us shortly as soon as he gets his stuff set up, but we'll just drag him in when he's here. We're going to give the mic first to Julie, Sad Kit Kat. Tell us who you are, what you do, and what are your thoughts on hookup culture? Go ahead.
I'm Julie, or Sad Kit Kat. I stream on Twitch and Kick. I just got my degree in accounting. Haven't found a job yet, but I'll get there. My thoughts on hookup culture. I think it could be good in some ways where it allows people to explore and stuff, but I think in other ways, I think it's pretty damaging to society. I think it's opened a lot of avenues for people to put themselves in positions where it hurts them and also hurts each other, and I'm just not the biggest fan of it. I don't think the majority of people who have been experimenting with it should be experimenting with it. I think it's better for people to hold off and wait for someone that actually cares about them, in a sense, kind of thing.
Well, thank you for being here. We're going to get into it as we go. Next up, it's been a while, but we're glad to have her back, Kirby Fine.
Kirby Fine.
So, Kirby Fiend, but
Green Fine, whatever, right? We're gonna go with it
because my full name's Josephine, so it's like my name. But so Kirby Fine. What can I say? I'm kidding. She gave a long background. I don't really care to give that long of a background. I work full time, sometimes stream. I just. So my opinion is I don't really care about hookup culture. I think it's less detrimental than most people think. That's my take on it.
Okay, short and simple, and that's what we like. Next up, we got Ahrelevant. Please, what are your thoughts, sir?
Howdy. I'm Ahrelevant, Ahrelevant, on all platforms. My opinion is I'm lightly against hookup culture on the basis that I believe that it does negatively affect people's long-term happiness and their ability to pair bond. And I also believe that it's actually has negative effects on people's mental state long-term if taken to its largest extent or adopted more broadly or widely. We can get into exactly why, but I think that it tends to be better for society if we focus on forming deeper bonds rather than bonds with people that are very temporary and might be a little bit more sticky with how we go about our interactions. So yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah, we will. Thank you for being here, sir. Always a pleasure to see you. Last but certainly not least, coming in at the nick of time, hooking up with us is Tunachip. What are your thoughts? Who are you? Why should people listen to you? And what are your thoughts on hookup culture? Go ahead.
In respects to this, I'm just a normal guy. I've done my fair share of dating, and for a long time I worked as a bouncer, and I'm familiar via that what exactly the hookup culture looks like in America right now and what the changes have been over the last, I'd say 10 years, 20 years, less so the latter from direct experience, but with talking with other people that were in that profession at the time. My general take on hookup culture is that not as much as people think has changed. Sexuality and casual sex has sort of always existed. The thing that's really changed is primarily the attitudes that we have around it, the amount of information we have about other people's lives. it's not even that strange and not even that novel that casual sex as a concept is taking the blame for ills happening somewhere else in society. So I think when we over focus on the idea of people having sex at a young age without attachment, without falling in love first, or even people doing anything that's sort of culturally around that, whether or not that's drug consumption or drinking, going to parties, we overemphasize the risk because we are thinking of the novel presentations, things that aren't actually coming from the casual sex, but are coming from the world that the casual sex is existing inside of.
If I could add to that real
Go
quick,
ahead.
it's just also I think the big change and the big mental change of a lot of people's attitudes towards it is the change in women's mentality about casual sex.
Can you
That
elaborate
is
on
something
that,
I would-
please? What do you mean
I
women's
think with the
mentality?
freedom and the new mentality a lot of women experience with casual sex and hookup culture, I think people are being like, oh, it's disgusting, we shouldn't do that anymore, because now we're trying to make it more acceptable that that women are open to casual sex.
Okay, so I guess this question is for Ahrelevant and Julie. Why do you hate women's freedom so much?
I hate when women have freedom. Ugh, you go.
I am. Yeah. So the main reason why I'm assuming the question is primarily about why I don't think it's particularly good for people. It's because kind of maybe a little bit of a contrast to what Tuna said. I don't think that it's like a historic amount of sex that we're having. In fact, it seems like we're having a historic low amount of sex for the majority of people. However, it's about whether or not hookup culture, as we understand it, is good or bad. And as I understand hookup culture, it states that there isn't these very significant side effects or risks to casual sex when there absolutely is. Having casual sex with a lot of people is quite a dangerous thing. It opens you up to increased rates of sexual harassment, increased rates of sexual assault, increased rates of STIs. It also just increased rates of like trauma. If you're, let's say 10% of people in the world are psychopaths. Obviously it's way less than that, but let's just use that for our own understanding. 10%, you have a much, much, much higher chance of engaging in a psychopath, engaging in hookup culture, because you are more likely to engage with more people in comparison to orienting dating and sexual relationships around dating more seriously. And that is a very real problem. And we could go into how that works.
If I could also add to this, I mean, I was looking at some stats the other day, just in Canada specifically, but the STI rate in Canada over the last decade has increased, Jesus Christ, over 259%. People are experiencing STIs at a rate that was not precedented before. Female syphilis has gone up 700% in the last decade because of hookup culture, because people are engaging in risky activities, and because I just feel like it's not a safe space for people to be hooking up with people randomly. People don't talk to people.
What's the sample size?
It's literally. Why don't you shut your fucking pie hole? Why don't you take your pie hole and shut it closed?
She couldn't find the sample size earlier, so that's
no.
why I'm asking.
No. That's a different statistic. That's a different statistic. This is on the health. This is on a Government of Canada website.
Okay, gotcha.
Gonorrhea rates have doubled in the last 5 years. Like, STI rates are
Different
increasing
website. What's the
because
sample
of
size?
motherfucker. I didn't look into it. How about you show me? I'm gonna press you.
If it came from the government,
Sample sizes
if it came
of
from the
every
government,
single
let's just
It's
take
the
it.
government-
By the way,
government-
Okay.
every single one.
It's the Government of Canada website. It's literally Canada. Thank you. But I genuinely just feel like hookup culture in general doesn't benefit the majority of women, because men have a higher social sexuality rate or whatever. They have no problem with just fucking random people. They'll move on. But women get emotionally attached. And so not only is there the emotional factor for women, but there's the pregnancy factor, and then also the STIs being spread around, which clearly STIs are being spread a lot more than they have been in the past. Like they're and chlamydia, a lot of people don't even know that they have it. And when you have chlamydia for a long time, you don't know you have it. It can affect your fertility to the point where you can't even have children. So you have sex with one dude, don't even know you have chlamydia. And now what? You decided not have sex for 2 years and suddenly you can't have kids because you had chlamydia the whole time you didn't even know.
So a lot has been said there, right, from both of you, right? But
I don't even know where. Should I take out a notepad like him as well? Because that was
You
like
should
8
take out a
different talking
notepad.
points.
Go ahead.
My God.
If you
I
take
should
notes
take out
on
a
the
notepad.
argument, if you take notes on the argument curve, it's going to be a lot easier because then I currently have like a little bit of the argument and like a little bit of just like psychoanalyzing Julie on here, so I could focus on just the latter
You're
half.
motherfucker. Hey,
Well,
calm
what-
down. Calm down. Hey,
I
Note to
think
self?
you might
That's
want to
awesome.
look in the mirror when saying that. You're on
I'm
a
gonna
rage.
crash. I'm
You're on the
crashing out
blood
very
path,
soon.
Julie.
Okay, let's
You're on
focus,
the-
kings. Let's focus, kings and queens. We're going all over the place. Let's take our
Yeah,
planes, get all on the same track, and try to get in on the subject at hand. Tunachip,
I got
see if you can
responses.
re-rail us, please.
So some
Okay.
of those claims, she brought up pregnancy. I think that's an unfair argument because I think a lot of if we look at people in relationships versus out of relationships, obviously you have a lot more pregnancy in relationships. And if you want to look at single mothers, you see single mothers, they're in relationships when the father leaves, not out of relationships, right? You see a lot more cases of that. So right there already, if you want to talk about depression and how you feel after you're outside of the relationship.
But you're saying talking about depression and you're talking about single motherhood. Those two are
Well,
separated.
you brought in depression.
you
as a point. I want statistics
you
on
can
depression.
be
You want to
you
know
can
the
be hold on.
depression after hookup?
Why
culture?
don't you hold on for a second? You can be
6.4%.
depressed while having sex with a man, knowing that you're continually engaging in sex with a man, hoping that one day he'll get in a relationship with you or something because you're giving him what he wants. Well, he never wants you, and pregnancy is thrown out the window. That has nothing to do with that.
You brought up the more likelihood of pregnancy, and you are more likely
To
get
have pregnancy, STIs, and emotional distress.
Yeah, so you're more likely to get pregnant in a
Fucking
relationship.
people, yes. No,
What's
but
going on?
in general.
Okay, I don't know what's going on.
Wick,
Tuna,
having sex
please.
with
sleep on the dog. She's at like 11 out of 10. We just started talking.
I don't know. Let's
Breathe down.
re-rail the plane though. Let's get back into it.
She made a claim of depression. Again, I have some actual statistics where it says that after hookup culture over a year, 6.4% said they were depressed, and this study said that they can't necessarily contribute depression to hookup culture, but that's how many people said they were depressed. After 50% participated in it, so.
Okay, Tuna, you had something to say? Get us back on track.
Yeah,
King.
I got a decent number. The first thing is, and maybe this is just like a misspeak here, really, but when you're going down saying that you think that the reason that casual sex is having these new consequences is because the natural risks have been taken away. Is that correct? That was like the framing that you started with there?
No, I don't really believe that there is new risks. I'm just talking about the idea, the prominence of hookup culture as being something that is kind of pushed as having very little to no consequences. When it is, it has a lot of consequences.
There are a lot of new consequences, though. Like your whole list of things, bad things that could happen to people are the consequences. Women are extremely scared and actually avoid going on dates without like texting their entire friend group to like warn them that they're going on a date, because everybody is kind of dealing with the elephant in the room of being sex trafficked, being given a pill, passing out, date raped. The consequences we're more aware of them, and also they seem to be higher than ever because the new technologies for like shipping people across the world, it's just more affordable to a greater number of people. I actually think that if you took this idea that there are fewer risks too seriously, you would have to see that all of these things are the risks involved with sex, right? Sex is not just what happens biologically with the penis and the vagina. Like, it's not, those were never really the primary consequences, because birth control has existed far longer than this supposed shift in sexuality culture. The real change seems to be like, I think the privacy and this new way that we approach sexuality, where we're uncomfortable talking about sexuality, and thus people are taking advantage of one another, whether or not it's a woman being strung along by a man that lies and says that he loves her, and then he eventually leaves after pumping a baby into her, or if it's somebody like going on a series of dates thinking that a person is trustworthy, only to figure out that he's putting a lot of effort and he's well tuned his personality to be better at taking advantage of women, right? Like there are new risks because of how open everything has become, but also simultaneously how private we feel like we have to be because of how open things are. You can't talk shit about a guy without suddenly the entire town calling him like a rapist or something. It's made us more private about the things that we're dealing with in our relationships. Does that make sense to you?
More private. I mean, based on what you just said, it sounds like your argument is that they were making it more public, not more private.
It's implicitly so the ability for publicity to go from the small scale of like between me and my friends to suddenly being the
Sure.
talk of the town, if not the whole world, because that's gone up. I think people are like a little bit more hush hush because they know that the word will get onto the wind. Like secrets between friends don't stay between friends anymore. So now people aren't even talking with their friends
Sure.
about a lot of shit that's going on because it's gonna blow up. Versus before, you could like talk to your mom and be like, I like this guy, but like, I don't think that he's really going to stick with it.
I just genuinely don't know if there's lower rates of communication about sexual misdemeanors, harassment, and other forms between friends. I would have it a guess there's more communication between individual like groups about things like that more recently in comparison to the past.
If we're guessing statistics, can I ask why you went on to the point that there's more depression later on with people who hook up more? Like,
I don't think I made a claim of depression. Or
you
are
said
you referring to lower
long-term.
rates of happiness?
Or lower rates of happiness long term. Is that because
Yeah, so
they can't hold a relationship? Is that the claim?
No, no. The idea is that there's a couple of studies that have been done that based on the number of sexual partners you've had, you have lower rates of long-term happiness with one intimate partner in your marriage.
Yeah, I've seen those studies, but I've only seen them on like the whatever podcast when they're presented to me. I haven't seen those studies like outside of that because I just think that claim is wrong. I think a lot of times you can pull studies in whatever sample pool you want to pull from and say, oh, this sample pool says that if you only have one sexual partner, you're curious about other sexual partners. So that happens as well. So I think this is all situational almost.
I have a question for the panel here, because this is something that I've been looking into this in preparation for the show, and there seems to be this idea among everyone that hookup culture is on the rise, and yet that conflicts with other data I see showing people just are more lonely than ever. They're not connecting. They are not having sex at greater rates than they have in a while. So hookup culture seems to be kind of like this, and correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of a myth almost. Why am I wrong with that? Go ahead, Julie.
I would even go further and say that a lot of people are saying that the only way they can get start dating is through hookup culture.
I don't think it's a myth. I think a lot of people have been hooking up with a lot of people. It's just a lot of people have also been left out of the dating pool. Like you go on Tinder, if you're a man under fucking 5'8", good luck, because you're not getting a fucking.
Yeah, but that should be fixed by hookup culture, because if you have hookup culture, more people will hook up with you. They'll lower their standards.
No.
Right?
They want to.
It's going to be the opposite.
Really?
No, they only want to hook up with people they're attracted to. If you're under fucking 5'8", you're screwed. Like, trust me, buddy, you're done outies. Like, Tinder now has like a height filter, right? So they can select. They can select for men they want to fuck with. So it's these same men who are fucking these same women. That's pretty much it.
I'll springboard off of that. The problem, a problem with the idea of hookup culture and things like this is that sex or focusing on a sexual relationship reduces people down to probably our most like our least impactful traits are the things that we are not should not really be valued for as our number one priority. You're gonna have a lot more women who focus almost exclusively on height and guys like their jawline. You're gonna have a bunch of guys or women who focus or men who focus almost exclusively on how big your boobs are or like how small your waist is or how thin you are, because the goal isn't to get to know you. The goal isn't to like develop a deeper relationship with you. The goal is to have sex with you. And that is the problem that I have with like hookup culture. If hookup culture was about like, hey, you can just go out, you can be friends with people, like whatever, and then if you have sex, like that's fine. But that doesn't seem to be the kind of overarching narrative. The overarching narrative of hookup culture is that whenever you have sex, there doesn't seem to be these large cascading consequences. If we had a more informed kind of narrative around hookup culture, I would be more okay with it. But at the end of the day, it just seems like people in general are not as built for.
Informed of what? What information do you think people need?
Yeah, so informed of the idea that like, hey, if you have sex with, like I said previously, if you have sex with 20 people, right, you're probably gonna encounter at some point, maybe not 20, maybe we could go like, yeah, actually maybe 20. You're gonna probably have sex with somebody who's like not good with boundaries, and you're probably gonna have a traumatizing experience, particularly if you're a woman. So with that understanding, okay, I want to engage in hookup culture. You're probably going to engage in hookups with somebody who is likely to take advantage of you.
So
And
I think
you-
this is I think this is a misconstrued point of people who against and with hookup culture. It's not like hookup culture is like, oh, 3 hookups are happening a week. No, it's usually like 4 hookups a year. This isn't like a long-term we are hooking up every
No,
single day.
that's
every
you're
single
that's,
hold on,
okay,
let
hold
Kirby
on,
finish.
no,
Let
that's
Kirby finish her
anecdotal.
point.
That's anecdotal
It's
though,
not
because
anecdotal at all, and I have research backing this claim. It's not hookup culture based on we are hooking up with 3 people a week, 2 people a night. No, that's not how it works. It's hooking up with a few people throughout the year. Even college students as
But
well.
they don't
who are
know
like
these
at
people.
this point of exploration, the point of oh,
But they don't know
whatever you
these
wanna say, sexual
people.
depravity,
You
whatever.
don't know. Listen. You didn't know people back. Go back 20 years. People didn't know the people they were fucking either, right?
That doesn't make you should just be fucking strangers. That's how you get fucking syphilis. That's how you get fucking you get every other
You are way more
STI.
likely to wear a condom with a random stranger than you are with your partner who could
That's
be
not
cheating
true.
on you.
Gen Z is wearing less
Not
condoms
true.
today
Again,
than we are.
looked up the
That is
statistics.
absolutely true.
They're
I've
wearing-
looked at the statistics. I've
they're
literally
wearing-
looked at the statistics.
What?
Only 30% of Gen Zers are wearing condoms today because they
What
don't think
percentage
it's
of-
necessary.
Okay, and you think that this is an issue of hookup culture and not us cutting public
Yes, because
spending
they
on
don't think
foreign
hookup
sex?
culture is a big
Shut up.
deal. Yes,
Shut up.
absolutely.
Shut up.
Shut
You need a
up!
muzzle.
Shut up! Are you
need a
joking?
muzzle.
You asked me a question and then told me to shut up. Why do you eat a dick, bro? Eat a
I will
fucking
eat a dick before I
Telling me
breathe
to
the
shut
air that
up?
comes out of your
Hey,
fucking
hey,
mouth.
Okay. I'm throwing a flag on the plate. I'm throwing a flag on the plate.
You're not
Okay,
answering his
hold
question.
on. No, all of you, stop.
Let me
Stop.
say this one time. Let me say this, fuck this hoe.
Stop.
Answer his
Stop.
question.
Shut
All of you. Shh.
And I answered it.
Give me a second. Let me moderate the panel
Only
and
person
make
who
sure.
does.
Hot.
Dude, fuck that
No.
shit.
Oh,
Fuck that
oh my
shit.
God. All of you. None of you can listen. Maybe that's the problem.
You want to go?
That's the problem. We need more obedience on these panels. That will solve all our problems. Okay, I want to hear Tunachip's point, and once he's done, I'll let you respond, Julie. Okay, finish your point, and then Julie.
I'm pretty sure I was talking before him, and then he interrupted me, and then told me to shut up. But go on, continue. Say what you want to say.
Dog woman, shut up.
Go on. Okay,
Shut up, dog
you're
woman.
defender of women. You're defender of hookup culture. You're a feminist. Let's go. Interrupt a woman.
I wouldn't call you a woman. Call you a girl. Call you a dog
Okay.
girl.
Okay.
Oh,
buddy.
we all-
Okay, buddy.
Come on.
Look at you.
Forward.
You look like a distressed dog. You look like I could pick you up from the fucking pound. Why don't you line up your beard, bitch? Fuck you. Anyways.
Okay, back to the topic.
Our phone would have you as a chandelier. Okay, so we're moving forward. The whole point is that all these consequences that you're pointing to, whether or not it's people like getting STIs, whether or not it's people getting abused, all of this is an information issue. It has nothing to do with the hookups. It has everything to do with us not just telling people and giving people the information they're willing, and also their willingness to use that information. Has nothing to do with hookup culture. It has everything to do with people's bad decision making, which doesn't come from hookup culture. At that point, we're having a conversation about how we don't like human nature and we don't like the level of intelligence people are making their decisions with. That's a different.
Should we let retards talk for themselves,
no.
Irrelevant.
You clearly think we should, or else you wouldn't be on the channel.
Okay, hold on. Irrelevant.
And neither would you, buddy. Let's hang out. Let's hang out in the retard pool.
I want you to hang, that's for sure.
Irrelevant. Go ahead.
Yeah, so kind of on the back end of your point, that's my whole idea, is that there is information out there to engage in these things as safely as you can. I don't think there's ever a way to engage in it truly safely. This is why I was appealing to the increased rates of engaging with somebody who might be psychotic. There's nothing you can really do. If you hook up with like a creep or a sexual harasser, you're probably going to take some emotional damage. There's not really anything you can do about that. And maybe it'll be a long-term traumatizing situation, and I don't think that's good. But the idea is that, like, even if we try to perfectly inform people, the question is whether or not they're going to take this information and be able to use it in a way that is healthy. And it just seems like that isn't the case. There's been so much what I believe to be a decent sexual education. Decent is the word I'll use. And so much of it is not properly followed by so many different people. I've had conversations with many different people, including like my close friends, about like proper sexual health and sexual education. And it's just, not everybody does it. They hear it, they understand the arguments, they just won't really do it. Maybe they're lazy and stuff like that, but it various different reasons, not exclusively them being lazy. And yeah, so I would argue the back end of your argument, and that is a part of it. We could say hookup culture, it's not an issue with hookup culture, but it kind of is. The idea of whether or not people can be trusted to make all of these very informed and intelligent opinions about their sexual life, to the point of being able to have healthy sexual relationships with, potentially dozens of people. I'm not sure people can. I'm really young people, like 16 to 22. I'm not confident.
I hear what you're saying. At the same
are we
time,
to make it illegal? That's my next question.
No.
It's like
Just don't encourage it.
Yeah, exactly. Not illegal, but don't encourage it. I feel like hookup culture is encouraged too much today. But discourage it. Discourage sleeping with strangers.
It's already discouraged. It's already discouraged.
I have a phone call.
I do want to agree. It is discouraged. Like amongst your peers could be encouraged, but that depends on your age as well. I think if you're like 50 years old and you're still hooking up with people rather than having a wife and kids and like having a like good career and all that, I think that's completely discouraged. If you're like, yeah, I just fucked that girl last night, random as fuck in the club. I think that looks bad. But then you look at these 20-year-olds who are still going through their developmental parts of their life. I think that's completely fine and fair. Like that, like they're still
fine to experiment.
They're still children at that point. They're like,
I think
they
it's
don't know
totally
what they want in their
fine.
life.
It's totally fine to go out and experiment and do all that and blah, 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 blah. But I think if it's getting to a point where, like, fucking, like, even once a month you're going out and hooking up with a stranger at the club, like, that's dangerous. Like, that's scary. You shouldn't be doing that. Like, men and women, like, you're gonna get robbed. You're gonna get fucking sexually assaulted. Like, why are you engaging in that type of activity? It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. These people don't care about you. Okay, you want to get fucked that bad? Why don't you just jerk off?
So a lot of the studies talk about they want the compatibility without the commitment of a relationship. So
right. So then at worst case scenario, find someone that you actually really care about and are comfortable with, and do a situationship.
That's the problem.
No, a situationship. You can fuck people.
Situationships are more dangerous than hookup culture. They are significantly more because
I need a walk.
Has Julie been
gonna
drinking?
go fuck her fuck buddy or whatever. The one that she's like insecure about. That's what the motivation for all the emotions is. That she's being taken advantage of by one man, and now we all have to suffer hearing her words because of it. Listen.
Holy.
Wait, no. Let's calm down because she's debating with her
Sorry. I
ex-boyfriend
told you I
right
had
now.
psychoanalysis in here.
You're debating with her ex-boyfriend right there.
Debating. I'm reporting him. No.
No, this
We
is
know-
in
we
the call.
know.
Ahrelevant is her ex-boyfriend.
Oh my God, really? How could you stand that? Were you wearing those headphones? Were you wearing those headphones?
Okay,
Were you
this
listening to
panel
Sunflower
isn't
with
on
Happening?
judging
All right,
Ahrelevant
all
and
right.
Julie's relationship.
Let's-
We're not going to
let's
do
keep-
that.
let's
Nope,
keep
nope,
it
nope.
moving.
We're
Can I
going
say
to
something?
rewind it. We're going to rewind it. Okay, we don't
I say
need
something?
any of that.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
The last,
Why not?
okay, the last I heard before I walked off is that situationships are more dangerous than hookup culture, which doesn't make any sense to me because when you're in a situationship, yes, it can be emotionally damaging because maybe you're really invested in this person and you're spending a long time with them and it turns out that it just doesn't work out. Oh my God, did my nail just break? Sorry, whatever. The thing with hookup culture is you're hooking up with random people all the time. And you don't have anyone to trust, and there's so many.
Is such an exaggeration. That's what I keep telling you all the time.
That's what hookup culture is. That's literally what hookup culture is.
Can we have a
Hookup culture is-
definition of hookup culture?
To
Hookup
me,
culture-
hookup culture is being okay with hooking up with someone whenever you want. That's it. Like it's not like I'm gonna hook up with
Whenever you want.
whatever you want. Like if you want to hook up with someone that week, sure.
Oh, my nail.
So let's say somebody is hooking up with somebody every week.
Go ahead.
You say that's okay?
What'd you say?
You said whenever they want. So you would say somebody hooking up with somebody weekly, a new person weekly, is okay.
I think as long as you keep your sexual health and your sexual boundaries okay.
So can I say something?
You say you
'Cause
can't,
now-
but you can go to the doctor.
This is where
Let me
I
give you
need
an
no. I
example.
need to.
Yeah,
Hold on,
Why
Julie.
not?
We love you, Julie. But Kirby and Ahrelevant, let them go back and forth for a little bit.
So
wanna hear
I
what they
actually
have
want to
say.
hear this from Tuna. Do you think you can keep your sexual health in check by having sex with a new person every week?
Depending. Yeah, it's
No.
completely doable.
So this is
But
what I was
whether-
talking about by lack of education. Most STIs are not going to show up on an STI check within 2 weeks of sex.
I'm not
so
talking
both
about.
of you,
I'm not talking about testing. I'm not talking about
okay,
testing.
when
I'm
we're
saying
talking
that
about sexual health for hookups, you have to talk about testing, regardless
a
of
condom
circumstance.
is very viable as
missing-
well. It's like 99% of
you're missing
You
the
can
part
get
I'm trying to say.
you can get so many STIs orally.
Even while a condom is on, you can catch STIs around the condom.
Orally.
Okay, so therefore, in order to practice safe sex at a weekly basis, you can't do it because the STIs that you can catch need to require potentially up to 2 weeks for detection. Therefore, you are risking that maybe you did get an STI from the person that you were having sex with. Maybe they were lying, maybe whatever, and you're just crossing your fingers and hoping that you don't give it to the next person. You cannot
really.
You can also
engage in
get
safe sex
STIs
on a
from a
weekly
long-term
basis.
partner.
Really?
You can also
Yes, I
and
don't
you
disagree,
are way more
but-
likely to not use a condom with a long-term partner that cheats on you.
I understand that, but you guys both just agreed that
Really?
you should
The math
that it is
doesn't work out
okay
there.
in that.
But-
How?
The math doesn't work out there because if you are the person who's having sex once a week and all of the people that are having sex with you are getting vetted
Sure.
after having no sexual activity over those 2 weeks, you are only having sex with people that you have complete information about. And if you
That's not true. They could be lying
That's
to
not
you.
true.
They could be
Exactly.
lying to you.
Exactly.
Well, I'm talking
And also
about having
that
them. I'm
if you're
saying that they
engaging
have-
in
Bro,
sex
what?
week
Dude,
after week after
supply-
week.
No.
supply the actual
Okay,
No,
sex.
I
let me
heavily
keep
disagree.
compounding.
Okay, one at a time. Irrelevant. Go ahead.
Okay, one just quick follow up here. You are never going to be able to have sex with people consistently, new people on a weekly basis, and establish a good enough trust in them to say, yes, I have properly vetted that they're not lying to me about their STIs.
So that's why you
That
ask
is
them
never
actual, their actual
It doesn't
STIs.
if
getting
you
the medical
ask them,
form.
they're lying. It
STIs
doesn't matter
to
if
be.
you ask them, they can lie.
Wait,
It doesn't
you
matter if
understand
ask them,
that-
they can
They
lie.
force the
get
form. They have
the
a
medical form. You
in
get
their pocket
the medical form. You
can
to the doctor
create
with
a fake medical form
Oh
very
my God, they
easily.
Go to the
Photoshop that
doctor
But
with
quickly?
but
That's
even with
amazing.
that, but even with that, some diseases take a month to show up. I literally just got tested the other day. You know how
Okay.
long it takes for HIV to show up? A fucking month. So how
Yes.
would I know if someone that I'm fucking didn't give me HIV 2 weeks ago? I just got tested.
Because
How
we're
do I
talking
know?
about two forms of vetting. We're talking about your test, and then you're still being sexually responsible by wearing a condom. That's what we're talking about.
But you can, but oral. They're still oral. You can still
you're
catch
supposed to
things
wear a
from
condom during
oral.
oral. Are you-
Even beyond
Who
that,
does
you
that?
can get.
Who wears a condom during oral? Tell me.
People
Tell
wear
me.
condoms during oral.
I'm not getting a blowjob. I don't want that woman's sick mouth on my king
You
phallus.
think she's a sick mouth and you still fuck her? That is.
I don't need saliva on my rod, Julie.
Why would you fuck that girl?
Jeez.
You think she has a
Maybe-
sick,
maybe
disgusting
you-
mouth and you wouldn't have sex with her?
Julie,
That is
Julie, the
fucking
women-
crazy. Why are you hooking up
Julie,
with girls that you think are
Julie,
disgusting? Maybe you should fucking contain
Julie,
your penis to your own pants and calm down and
Julie.
leave women alone. You look like a
Julie.
fucking freak. Oh, she has a sick, disgusting
Julie.
mouth. I would never let her put her mouth in my penis. But you'll fuck her, you'll put your penis in her even though she's fucking disgusting? Bitch, leave women alone. You look like a fucking fool.
Now that that's over, Julie, are you?
It's not over.
You-
It's
you
never
maybe
over.
have
It's
an
over.
inflated
It's
sense of
over.
how much
It's
men
never
like
been over.
blowjobs because they
I'm
just
not
want
done.
to stop talking.
Sorry, I've never been done. I'm not over.
Can you repeat that, Tuna?
Do you have an
Sorry, I'm
inflated
not-
sense of how much?
Okay, we're gonna have to actually control this
Put her in the
panel.
box. Put her in the shock box.
I'm not gonna put him in the box, but I do
Shock
actually
box?
want a conversation.
Why do you put yourself in the
Julie,
STI box?
Julie, have you been drinking tonight?
I've never drank in my life.
That is
You
a
need
lot.
to.
I've never drank in my life.
Okay, so
Isn't
you
that
have been
obvious?
drinking
Come
tonight,
on.
so let's
Come on.
let's recenter, okay? Let's go back because I want to talk about more than just the physical aspect of here. We've been focusing a lot on STIs. We've been focusing a lot on that. Something you
Can
said
we-
earlier,
can we-
Tuna.
Without it being interrupted, can we just establish nobody here on the opposition thinks that like you should be having unsafe sex. We just also recognize that there are steps between having sex with somebody once a week without a condom and this totally much more normal thing, which is having sex with people, maybe a new partner every like 2 to 4 months, which seems to be the more normal behavior inside of this space, where you get into a continuous sexual relationship with one person, the dangers of which are that they could be lying. Obviously, we all agree that the lying thing is the issue, but it's like the development of trust that is separate from the hookup itself. That's the opinion difference, if that makes sense.
I don't think that that's the opinion difference is that hooking up with someone or random people on a regular basis is genuinely causes harm to people. It spreads STIs. So let's
If
talk
the
about
STI
it.
exists in the pool,
Okay, so I actually
which
have
you
a number.
to
So
exaggerate
this
in
is
order
a
to get to.
So
this is a
STI rates have increased
hey,
over
so,
200%
Julie, be quiet.
in Canada.
Julie.
So let's talk about that.
So 483 people were the sample size of this. Their sexual partners was 1.7, and the sexually transmitted infections is 2.1%. So there you go.
Okay, so
There's
let's talk. This was a government of Canada statistics. So they
yeah, that's fine. You're talking about increase, but I'm talking about a current statistic
right. The current statistic is it's gone up 700%
based off
and
of
more
college
people.
group of freshman individuals.
Right. So they're having sex and they're spreading STIs and they're spreading it to more people, and especially
You don't know if they're in relationships.
and-
You don't know if they're
and-
single.
and-
You don't know any
no,
other part of
but
this
it
statistic.
doesn't matter. It's being spread more because more people are fucking, and chlamydia specifically is really dangerous because people don't realize they have it, and it leads to infertility, and then people can't have children.
Isn't that what you're trying to get rid of?
When have I ever said it? When have I ever talked about getting rid of children?
You're talking about
Go-
pregnancy being this
Go
big
back
issue,
in
people
this
can have
VOD
less
and tell.
sex.
Go back in this VOD and tell me when I talked about getting rid of children.
You talked about the risk of pregnancy going down or going
So
up.
okay. So when did I talk about fucking getting rid of children? I talked about the risk of pregnancy. When did I talk about getting rid of children? These are two separate
That's a
things.
negative.
You're
that's a
actually
negative.
fucking brain dead. You're
Okay.
actually brain dead. It is incredible to
Okay.
watch live. You are brain dead.
I want to go to something Tunachip said earlier because it was interesting to me and we didn't really dig into it, and I want to. He said that a situationship is more dangerous than hookup culture. Can you elaborate on what you mean? Let's stay away from the STI stuff. I think we've gone the rounds on the STI stuff, right? That's been spread more than chlamydia has, okay, on this panel. Go ahead. Elaborate, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, so the actual, like, sort of nouveau sexuality or nouveau sexual landscape that we have now is more populated with people who have unclear bounds and definitions over what the nature of the relationship is. Are we going to get married? Are we just hooking up continuously, not talking about it? And because of that, people not actually communicating their boundaries accurately. Sometimes people taking advantage of the fact that the other person has been loose with their boundaries in order to break something that they could reasonably have assumed otherwise. This is what is genuinely leading people to more STIs, in my opinion. And I can't look at the data because I don't have the data in front of me, but the anecdotal evidence I have for most people that have an STI, it is happening because they trusted somebody who they established trust over 3-4 months. And then only at the very breaking point did it get revealed that halfway through those 4 months, that guy started sleeping with other people. He didn't communicate that change in behavior to the woman, and he specifically didn't do it so that he could hit it raw. And that's where we're getting into a lot of these new issues, is this thing where we are building trust with people who we are hooking up with without having a good reason to do so. That's a lot different than hookup culture. Hookup culture would propose this idea that you are essentially never trusting the people because it's always a one-night stand, or it's always maybe a second or a third fling. The amount of time that you spend inside of a situationship is enough where you can develop a false sense of trust in somebody that they can take advantage of. And I think that's way more dangerous than when you're on guard and you know for a fact what the dangers involved are reasonably.
Any responses to this?
I completely agree with that. Yep, you hit that.
What do you think? Oh, any response from either Julie or Ahrelevant on that? If not, I have
I have a
other
response,
questions.
but she was raising her hand.
Yeah,
so.
Ahrelevant. Well, she was doing a lot.
I'm gonna be honest. Fuck. I'm sorry. I know I was raising my hand. I really had to go to respond. I'm gonna pee my pants. Alex, this is on you.
You can go to the bathroom. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, this is on you. I'm actually gonna pee my pants.
Yeah, so I would say for the most part, I agree with just about everything you said. However, I would say the ambiguity as to what the relationship is perpetuated by hookup culture. The idea that situationships have been so normalized, and the idea that, hey, maybe we are just having sex and like that's all it is, that is perpetuated by hookup culture. If their hookup culture wasn't as much of a thing, that wouldn't be as much of a narrative or a route that I could realistically go in this hypothetical if I was trying to deceive a woman or something like that. Oh yeah, no, I mean, I know I said like I really liked you and stuff like that, and I could see a future with you and all that stuff, but I just thought we were here to fuck, something like that, and I just say that to people I fuck. That idea is perpetuated that you can do that by hookup culture. Like, oh, I could just say all these nice things and then like be whatever, it's just sex. I mean, no, that definitely is the case, because if hookup culture, as we understand it, is not a thing, it's like, no, if I'm engaging with sex with somebody, it's because maybe I see something good, something going in a specific direction with this person, not just like, hey, this was a hit it or quit it. It's just the way that it is. This is like a very normal whatever thing. I can say whatever and go about this in the manner that I so choose. That is kind of a part of the point that I was making earlier, that hookup culture is, I'm not confident that people are informed enough on how to engage in this in a healthy manner, or more specifically, a mature manner.
So there's something that I wanted to bring up. Again, a lot of the studies that I did pull up, are young people going through education, starting out their careers, etc. A lot of people choose to not engage in relationships and choose situationships, hookup cultures, whatever, because they don't want the commitment and the emotional commitment to a relationship, because they don't feel that they have the time and effort to put into that relationship right there. So they'll choose, again, I said this earlier, they'll choose the hookup culture because it's a quick thing, and they both if they both communicate, if they don't, maybe they both already subconsciously know it. It's something there for the one night stand, the one night attachment to someone else and then it's over, right? Rather than the commitment that you have to constantly communicate with them over and over again as you're trying to do other things. And I that's why I don't think it's so detrimental like we're making it out to be. I think it's fine at early age, maybe later age. I could even argue maybe it's less fine, even though you know more of what you want later in life. But I feel like you also sometimes want to settle down more in life later.
But hold on, that's so you said I know you know what you want later on in life. Sorry, I'm fucked up. Shut up. Sorry, I'm talking. Let me. You know what you want more later in life. So young early adults come into hookup culture thinking that this is the norm because I also experienced this.
That wasn't my argument. They're okay with it because they want to focus on other things.
But I'm relating it back to my argument where a lot of people who are young feel like this is the norm and this is what they should be.
Yeah, but you can argue that with relationships. You don't know what you want in your life, and so you enter a premature relationship, and then you completely get ruined because you're attached to this guy that you spent years with.
But it doesn't matter because women get attached to a guy that they spent 6 months fucking.
I think it's honestly sexist that you always are saying women, and I just don't.
Because
think
do. Women are less sociosexual. They have to be less sociosexual because they get pregnant if they fuck people.
Yeah, and
women
absolutely. Who's more likely to get pregnant? People in relationships.
No, but it doesn't matter. Women put themselves in a position every time they have sex to potentially get pregnant. So would you rather get pregnant with a guy that you've been seeing for fucking a year and a half that you really love, or a guy that you've been seeing for 2 months that you've just been fucking?
The guy that you love says, "I'm ready for a kid. Let's do it," and then he leaves you. Let's pose another situation.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Don't have the kid.
Getting pregnant with a stranger is obviously worse than getting pregnant with someone you've known for years.
That's just true because the stranger.
Other people's sentences have information that you don't know until they finish the sentence.
Can you stop talking to me for a second? Can you actually just not talk to me? Babe, are you totally chill? Just don't talk to me for a minute. I would really
stop.
Just don't.
Tuna. Don't say stuff like that. I can't.
Don't talk to me.
Can't have that.
Thank you.
Okay, don't be on the panel. You don't have useful opinions.
Don't be on the panel. Why don't you eat shit and die, ho?
Okay, but
hold
on. Nope. Sorry. One more time. Hold on. Next person who says something like that, I'm gonna have to mute you for a while. Okay, it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a large timeout.
Listen,
so
I have no problem
Tuna
being muted.
and Julia,
I have no problem.
None of that stuff.
Hold on.
We can't have any of that.
Wick, you want me to come after you? Whose name did you just say? Tuna and Jula?
Julie.
You want to
sorry.
Thanks, baby.
Okay.
Love you.
That said, I feel like we aren't actually talking about the thing I want to discuss tonight, right? There's this idea, and let me just kind of jump in here. Maybe I'll help things out just a little, right? This idea that people have that hookup culture is bad. I understand the health risks, but we allow and often encourage risky behavior in many aspects of life. A lot of people like to drive, but the more times you drive, the more risk you have getting into an accident. Is that perfectly preventable? Yes, right? But we still allow people to do it, and if people want to take that risk and they know all the factors about that risk, why can't they do that? The same with hookup culture. If people are informed of the risks, and if people still want to engage in that, why would it be bad for especially a young person to engage in that? Because it helps. Like, Ahrelevant, you mentioned earlier that the 10% of the people as a number are psychopaths, right? And the more you hook up with people, just as a random number, right? But
it wasn't a real number.
Yeah, but the more you hook up, the more chance you have a bad experience with a bad person. But doesn't the opposite also hold true? That the more you hook up with people, the more chance you have to find the love of your fucking life, right?
Well, not
true, but
sure. Actually, I don't think that is the case.
Why?
I don't think hooking up. Because I don't think hooking up with some people is a necessary precondition for finding the love of your life. You would need to compel me that I need to hook up with a woman to be able to figure out if she's going to be.
The more you hook up with people, the less your ability to be able to connect with people is. Like you
Right,
fuck
well,
yourself up more.
I can initiate a friendship with someone and figure out if they're the love of my life. I don't need to have sex with them. So I kind of reject the idea that because if I have more sex with women, that allows me to more accurately determine whether or not they're the love of my life. I would actually argue the opposite. When I engaged in what would be considered as hookup culture, that was easily the most shallow interactions that I've ever had with the women that I had them with. It was very purely like sexual, like damn near transactional. It felt horrible, and I imagine I feel
Yeah,
like the
but
numbers even
could
back
could you
this
not
to
see
this day.
a good way and a bad way to engage with hookup culture? Like if the way you were describing it, where it was just shallow and you were just getting it and things like that. But could you not see someone, because sexual compatibility in a relationship is an important part of a
Of
healthy
course,
relationship, correct?
yeah,
Right?
but that's mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lily,
you could.
can I offer you like a when you were, or it starts with a question. When you were engaging in hookup culture, are you talking about doing the apps, or are you talking about going to parties and hooking up with people that were at parties?
Apps.
So I think that there's something very different going on there. And when we talk about like people aren't going out as much, they're not having sex as much, they're not drinking as much, it's because these things are combined into one social activity. People are hosting parties because they want to have sex, because they want the attention, they want to have the fun,
I
not just to drink.
don't agree with this. I already don't
Well,
agree with this.
Julie,
I
because
would
you're
like to hear it
16.
too now.
Yeah. So
Well, you go.
I
You
want to
finish.
actually
You
have a point,
finish.
Julie. Okay.
Yeah,
The removal,
finish.
the suspicion that we have, and the removal of a healthy hookup culture, which has existed for ages, due to general suspicion of one another, due to our greater understanding of, and maybe also like changing narratives about whether or not men like raping women is normal, or doing things that we now consider rape. There was a period of time where there was like this like edge case stuff where people are sort of playing language games around it. I think that we're looking at like without the sexual motivation inside of the social landscape, there's just less socialization. People are going to be lonelier in their friends. They're going to be lonelier in general if sex as a motivator is not allowed to exist as a casual thing. Because that's what made it so that jazz existed. It's the reason that people were going to, like, it's the reason frat parties still continue to exist. They're the only people that have hookup culture in the traditional sense. And a lot of them straight up aren't doing it anymore because the women are sort of not going to those parties. They're like, oh, that's creep shit. Like, the downtick in happiness with people probably has a lot to do with just the death of sociality in general. And I think that hookup culture is like, in the traditional sense, not in the apps way, hookup culture is one of the like key pillars to why sociality even exists in your teens and early 20s.
Can you real quick catch me up on the downtick of happiness? I'm really curious about that point.
Yeah, people are less happy because they're less social. They're doing less. Whether or not they're drinking less, partying less, or they're just
But
spending less time with people.
They're fucking more though. They're doing this
again,
and they're doing this less, but they're going out of their way to Tinder hookups and whatever
every
more.
study addressing hookup culture and happiness says that it's inconclusive. They can't necessarily compare hookups to being unhappy, right? Because you have so many other things happening in your life, so you can't correlate those two. It just doesn't make sense.
Based on what I've seen, so there's at least a
Again,
study that
if
I
you're
have.
talking about the whatever podcast, like
No, I'm not
fun
talking
facts.
about the what. I don't like those losers. But I'm talking
Kurt,
about there's a you talked about sample size. There's a sample size study right here. It says 16,000 adult Americans found that their happiness maximizing number of sexual partners in previous years calculated to be one.
The
There's
thing is,
I feel like I know exactly which one.
but it is the general truth. It is the general truth. The more people you sleep with, the less happy you're going to be in your relationships later in life. If you sleep,
well,
if you sleep with 50
curiosity
people,
in a relationship.
no,
as well.
but you can have curiosity. That's fine. But you're a curious person, and you won't work in a relationship because you're a curious person.
No, it's not because you're a curious person. That's not necessarily true.
If you fucking 20 people, if you fucking 30 people, guess what? It's you're gonna have a hard time.
It's like the people who are in the closets. Like you fuck one person all your life, you don't necessarily know you're gay. Like right?
The people,
you could make that claim as well.
And the people in the closet have had this. It's literally the same thing. The people in the closet, oh, they fucked 3 people and they didn't know it was right. So now they fuck 20, 30 people. It's literally the same thing, but backwards.
What is the number where beyond which if you fuck that many people you're now unhappy?
It's like 14 or something. Again, the
It's-
whatever podcast presented us
for
this, and
me,
it
no.
was over 10. It was over 10.
For me, I would say it's probably like I would say it's like 30. If you fucked over 30 people, you have an issue.
So I remember
would say.
the podcast that they presented it. It said like if you pass like 7, you're like at your peak most unhappy. To be a little less unhappy, you have to go to like 10. And so I remember at the time, me and Mole were joking. Ooh, well, I guess might as well bring up the number. It was a joke at the time, but like
Fair enough.
That was my memory of this statistic. If he's talking about the same one,
I do.
To be clear,
remember-
what
no,
I'm saying
I'm-
is that
Oh, go ahead.
There you
Relevant, and then
if it's okay,
Tuna.
if it's okay.
No, I would kind of like to hear Tuna.
okay, go
be
ahead.
honest.
Yeah.
My main point is that the change in the social landscape towards atomization due to like digital sociality, whether or not it was the big uptick that we had in COVID or just the slow incline that we had up before that still continues to happen. We're just seeing people complain about the same things again and again and again, but in a different domain of their life, which is just, I'm lonely. I'm lonely sexually, socially. I don't have a good job. I'm working from home. My job feels fake. I think what we're feeling, like what we're seeing with the uptick in sorrow has so much more to do with the conditions surrounding the sex culture as opposed to the sex culture itself. The sex culture has been here the whole time, but it's changing with the world, and it's changing in a way that I don't think
it
it's
affects these things. But you're so silly. It obviously affects
Julie,
these
let
things.
him finish.
You don't solve those problems with the sex culture by non-participation, because non-participation is actually contributing to the issue. Sociality is on a downtick because there is less that we are looking to do that is exclusively in person. You can't really fuck over a digital. It's one of the last few things. Drinking and fucking are one of the few things that you can only really do with your body, and you especially prefer to do in company. So it's just like you're not making the world, like, we are looking at people having more isolated events of sexuality, which is what I think is more dangerous, as opposed to like just hooking up. Hooking up has been, I mean, there was a period of time before the 90s and early 2000s where people were having more casual sex than they did during that period of time. It was not normal to say that just because you were flirting or going on dates that you were boyfriend and girlfriend. And then we had this big period of time where everybody, and I think it had partially to do with the uptick in education about STDs and also drug use. There was this period of time where we started spreading that education. If we just increase that education again, we wouldn't have nearly as many people, like, and frankly, we would want to not have people make the same mistakes regardless of the number of people. We don't have nearly as many people having unprotected sex. If that's the fucking problem, it has so little to do with how much sex they're having and how much
they're
shoveling into their mouth from each other.
I get what you're saying. I want to ask a relevant question, actually, and Julie, when she gets back here, should we shame people who engage in hookup culture? So, say you know a friend, and his friend's just boning chicks left and right, engaging in this superfluous, very shallow hookups culture, but he's having fun. He does it safely, as much as he can, right? He's very honest with the women. He's not leading them on or anything. Should that person be shamed? Okay, so
No, the idea that I have for hookup culture is just the idea that I don't think the average person can engage in it in a healthy manner. I think most people are going to engage in it in a potentially opportunistic fashion or do things that are detrimental to the people around them. I think the average person is better served.
What do you mean by that? Like the people that
that they're hooking up with,
okay,
and stuff like that. Like, people are going to take advantage, kind of like to Tuna's point. I liked what Tuna brought up earlier, but I think it is perpetuated by hookup culture. The idea that people will see the normalization of, and maybe there's some disagreement on this, but I believe that the way hookup culture is being broadcast is that there's not these so many different consequences to having sex outside of just like STIs and like pregnancy. Like there's the
Emotional?
significant
That's the big one.
emotional consequences that come with having sex with people you don't know very well. There's very real emotional consequences. Let's say I'm an abuser or I'm an abusive person. That can traumatize you for the rest of your life. And this idea that like, because actually further to Tuna's point, because I actually do agree with this, there's lower rates of socialization that happens today. And kind of springboarding off of that, the people who are not socializing, these people, this increases the rate of sexual misconduct. If you don't have proper socialization, you're not going to have as good of an understanding of how to communicate sexual boundaries, as good of an understanding as whether even to communicate sexual boundaries, and maybe even you may not have a greater perception of sexual boundaries at all in the first place. Like, hey, as an example, I think literally the whatever podcast people are a good example of this, where they're talking about like, oh yeah, you should just, go at it. You should just be confident in have sex with these people, even if they're like, oh, I don't know, or they haven't said like yes yet. They're just like push forward and be like a confident masculine man. Stuff like, huh?
It's a good way to
They
rape.
don't say that. Out of the 4 times I've went on, they've never said that.
Okay, well, this is based on my knowledge of watching some of their content. Is that they talk about how men need to be like these people who just take charge and go forward and do these things, and I think this idea stems from, not great socialization, and moreover, I just genuinely think not very well socialized people shouldn't be initially engaging in sex. They should be looking for ways to interact with people socially, and then once they build up their social skills, probably then look towards sex.
I do want to read some super chats because people have been paying money to talk, and if you want to pay me money to talk, you can,
Real
gang.
quick, can I address one point he made?
Address
about,
the point that he
a
made, then
random
we'll get into
person
the
like
super
abusing
chats,
or
yeah.
beating you. Yeah. So the one thing is, a lot of abusers, they don't reveal that they're abusers until later in a relationship. That's the one thing. At first meeting, they don't reveal that they're abusive until way after the relationship already started. That's it.
Okay.
I'll hop back on that after the donuts.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just clicking the buttons here.
You're good.
$20 from Grassroots Hegemon to say, prediction. No one here will mention how having sex with a friend can absolutely poison that relationship.
Agreed.
Thank you for the $20.
Agreed.
$2 Canadian from Testicle Johnson to say,
So basically
well,
$1.
now we know who's under 5'8" on the panel. Thank you for the $2. $5 from Zephyr Hash 2. What happened to Zephyr Hash 1? I'm not sure. Says, by the way, Gen Z uses less condoms is because they use other forms of contraception. Someone think of the replacement rate. Crying emoji, crying emoji. Gang, if you want to super chat me, you can. I'll read them out and we can discuss them. Give me money, frankly.
They still need
Okay.
condoms.
So thank you for that. But yeah, there are risks as well to engaging in a relationship or a sexual relationship with someone who is a friend in a non-hookup way. Surely you would recognize that, Ahrelevant?
I'm sorry, say again?
You would recognize that there's a lot of risks to friendships, to friend groups by people who engage in sexual promiscuous behavior within that friend group, right? So I'm not talking about hookup culture here. I'm talking about people who are trying to date one of their work friends or their school buddies or what have you.
Yep. Yeah, I would recognize that, yeah.
Is that so? What makes hookup culture worse is, I guess, the question.
I don't think it's necessarily worse than that, but I think we can analyze these things independently. I don't think hookup culture has to be worse than all other means of sexual interaction or intimate interaction. I'm just here to discuss whether or not I believe per capita people are able to engage in hookup culture in a healthy manner, and I just don't think they are. So
Are we taking capita of our generation or generations before us?
Our generation and the younger generation, who are going to be predominantly more likely to engage in any form of casual sexual relationship.
So the statistics you're telling me, the sample size is our generation and below?
I imagine that I mean, the one that I was specifically referring to is done in 2004, so there's no way that it would be ours. Yeah.
Okay.
So is
Yeah.
Julie coming back, or are we just gonna?
I can call her.
Don't
keep
speak
going,
of the
keep going.
devil. They might arrive.
Okay, well, I
Let's
like
keep
Julie,
going.
and
Sorry.
I hope she comes
Sorry.
back.
Finish your point. I'm sorry for.
Sure, it's fine. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm torn on this because I understand that people can get hurt if they engage in hookup culture in a variety of ways, but at some point, like, you learn by doing. Hookup culture gets people more comfortable approaching women, men who are lonely. One of the things that I talk to a lot of young men, they're scared to even approach women. They feel like they're going to do it wrong.
course.
Doesn't hookup culture help kind of teach them some skills here?
I don't think so.
No?
I
kind of a
don't
yes.
think approaching. Okay, if Tuna hasn't gotten to
Yeah.
speak in a minute, so I'll submit.
There's kind of a yes and there's kind of a no. One of the big things with hookup culture that's helped with the nervousness is you are creating a situation where women are more okay with and open to being assertive, which that helps. It is very much so, like, whether it's Bumble or whether like something that forces women to take initiative, or just the fact that women do need to communicate in some way by the apps or in modern life due to how nervous men are nowadays because of the Me Too shit. Women do need to take a bit more of the initiative in communicating that they do want to have sex at all ever, versus before it was like you kind of had to pretend to be a desireless waif ready for a cock to swoon her or something. It's a little bit better for them. But the other thing is, hookup culture
wait.
and the ability
Go
to
ahead, go
publicly
ahead.
communicate about it has made it so that women are telling each other when a man is abusive. Whisper networks did not exist in the same way that they do now. Women, when a man rapes a woman or does something that's not necessarily rape, but is still pretty abusive, there's a way for that word to spread that isn't like that woman being sort of like publicly shamed for being a slut. Like, there's a big shift in a positive for safety because of hookup culture.
I don't think that's because of hookup culture. I think that's just socially conscientious, like an empathic way that
Do you not
society's
think that
moving
that's
towards.
do
I
you
think
not
that's
think
more
that's a
feminism
consequence of the
than.
normalization of hookups, though? Like, that's why
What?
women are
No,
like,
I think
I'm confused right now.
I think the
What?
process of
Can we
normalization of
restart?
hookups came as a result of, particularly feminism.
Go ahead. You had something to say, Kirby?
I'm in shock by the three things he just said. Are you pro-feminism? What's going on here?
what'd you say?
Are you a feminist?
I don't have a strong opinion on that label. In some ways, they would say yes. In some ways, they would say no.
Okay.
Why?
I
What are
can't
you
tell if
shocked
that's
by?
based or not. That might be based.
It might be based, sure, but yeah, I could agree with that. But there were some things there that you said that I was like a little bit like, what are you talking about with like the hookup point of view? I missed some of it because I was calling Julie, so I didn't hear. I probably heard the
Well,
tail
okay,
end of your
think of it
first
this way.
argument.
If a man has sex with no woman before having sex with you, and he starts abusing you, you had no warning. But if he had sex with 5 women, and 3 out of 5 women report that he is not very good with boundaries in bed, and
Okay, I
they
agree
are
with that.
saying it publicly,
This
if
guy
only
is
through
not.
whisper network.
This guy
Julie,
is
let me.
not.
Can he finish his statement, please? Because I missed this conversation.
You
He's
at
not
least have an
feminism
opportunity.
based.
You
What?
at least have an opportunity inside
Yeah,
of a situation where people are having sex and talking about the sex they're having and being open about it. You at least have a shared language and a warning. You don't really have a warning in a world where sex, when it does happen casually, is hush hush because it's a shamed activity. That you don't get that warning. You don't have that same security blanket that women have, where there are these, Facebook groups and even just not groups, just group chats where women are saying, "Hey, had a hookup with Darren last night. He loves to put it in the stink without asking." Like, well, now we know that Darren is a butt rapist.
Okay.
That doesn't translate to the majority of women's experiences in the hookup culture. I feel like that's like really stupid, and
No, he's making a great point about against hookup culture. I think
In
that's
what
what he's.
way?
No, it
In what
would
way?
be for.
Oh, I
long-term.
thought you were making a claim against hookup culture. Where you're saying if you're talking to someone for a while.
No, this is a pro hookup culture.
no,
Really?
that's terrible. That's
Oh, he
I thought you were
just-
saying
he just
pro in the
disconnected.
state.
What allows
Like,
people.
Can I
Oh, he's
restate
still
his
there,
point?
Tuna?
Because I understand his point. I somewhat agree with it. Can I restate his
What-
point, maybe?
Yeah, what he's
restate his
saying.
point. Sorry.
Yeah,
I
what
was
he's
checking a few
saying,
things.
right, as I understand it, is that because it's less shameful to be promiscuous, people are more open to talking about their experiences and are more willing
don't
to
think
share
that's
the
a
bad
good thing.
experiences.
I thought he was giving the example of someone.
I don't think that's a good thing.
That's going to happen versus someone who's hooking up.
I don't think that's a good
and
thing.
that's going to happen, and they can research the guy over time versus someone who just hooks up for the one night.
No.
They don't know that.
I
that
don't
guy
think
does that.
any of
I
that is
thought
a
that
good
was
thing.
the point.
I don't
Yeah.
think any of
I
that
agree.
is a good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. No, I agree with that. People are more open. If you're a little bit, not even more promiscuous, more open to talking about sex, and we can look at other cultures. Even we can go to like Europe, and the Europeans. They are very, very open to sex. So we look at those cultures, and I think being open leads us to being more comfortable. Even like with hookup culture, not saying like we enact in that, but like you brought up the point. If you have a long-term partner, it's easy to talk about sex. I don't think that's necessarily true. If you have a first-time partner, I don't think it's easy to talk about, hey, I'm comfortable with this, I'm not comfortable with this. But I think if we were more open as a society, then it would be more normalized.
And I think that the
I don't think
openness
it, but
primarily.
I don't
Go
think
ahead,
it
Julie.
should be normalized. I don't think it should be
To
normalized.
talk more about sex shouldn't be normalized?
No. Like, if you want to hook up with people, obviously you should talk to them
No.
about it. But like,
No.
hookup culture
You're
in
confused.
general should be like, I don't think hookup culture should be encouraged in any way whatsoever. I don't think people should be told, "Hey, this is normal. This is fun. You should fuck people that you don't know." I don't think that's good for anyone.
I never said that. I
That's
said
the
that.
conversation.
That's what hookup.
Now we're at the
I said
argument.
That's what hookup culture is fucking
Yeah,
people
but-
that you don't know.
No, I said
We're
if
asking
we
you
normalize hookup culture, then I think it brings to the conversation that we're more comfortable talking about sex, and because the U.S. in particular is very uncomfortable with talking about sex, and I think normalizing sex, just as a concept, makes us okay with being in relationships, being like, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this, I'm comfortable with this. I think at where we currently stand, I think we aren't comfortable with that original conversation. Your first boyfriend ever, I think you will not be able to say, hey, I'm really uncomfortable you did this, and it feels better when you do this. Like, I think where we are in a society, we're not comfortable saying that. But
Yeah,
like,
but
people-
I don't think hookup culture. I don't think hookup solves that. I think
I
understanding how to
agree,
better
but like the
communicate.
hookup as a
Agree.
concept, more open to sex. I think as a concept, not necessarily. Again, not saying we're gonna have sleep with someone every single night, but being more open to sex in general leads us to that conversation and leads us to that openness.
I don't necessarily. I think it all depends on how people will willfully engage in those sexual relationships. I think just the idea that hookup culture exists, and because people have sex more often, that means people will just naturally engage in sex.
Hookup culture doesn't mean you engage in sex more often. This is ridiculous, and this goes.
You're silly. You're Kirby.
Point. We've been having sex.
Kirby,
for
no,
decades.
Kirby, you're so ridiculous for
We're
that.
normalizing it
The
more. That's the
idea,
whole
you're
concept.
no, it shouldn't be normalized. It shouldn't be normalized.
It's been hookup culture
No.
has been here for fucking
No.
decades. This
No.
is
It's
done.
older
no,
than you, Julie.
no.
It's older than you. It's not
Okay,
something.
it's
It's
older.
older than all of us.
I would say it's older than you, but you look pretty fucked up. Like, you look fucked up. But like,
Dude,
I would
you
say it's older than
literally
you,
are
but I
fucked
don't
up.
know.
Get
It's
water.
older than every living human right now. Having
It's just
casual
like
sex
Hey,
is
Julie.
older than every living
that's
human.
Hey,
ridiculous.
Julie, can you
No.
drink some water for me? Okay. Get a glass of water.
Hold on.
for me. Yes,
I'll be
please.
chill.
No, please.
Okay,
Just
so
go ahead.
I want to differentiate because we keep referring to hookup culture. When I'm talking about hookup culture, I'm not talking about people hooking up. I'm talking about hookup culture as we understand it, like the movement that is being pushed, right? So when I
it's like
speak
US
about
only though. That's the thing. Europe's been going through like if we want to define hookup culture, Europe's been doing this for fucking decades. So this is silly.
I mean,
It's just silly
but
conversation.
Europe has gone through, well, different countries in Europe have gone through different experiences with hookup culture, sure, but I'm not sure how that's like how that connects to what I'm saying. But specifically, hookup culture is not, at least as I understand it, or in my definition, it is not hooking up. Hookup culture as a concept of where we're discussing is whether or not the idea of being hooking up as a thing that's like, oh yeah, it's like a chill thing, let's just be chill with it or whatever, can be adopted into the public zeitgeist and do more harm than good, or maybe do more good than harm.
So
That is the idea.
So that was my point of bringing up Europe, which I think they've indoctrinated like hookup culture for again decades, and I think we can see their culture, and it does do good. I think it makes people very comfortable with, for example, even nudity. I'm not saying nudity is like end all be all. We have to do it, but I'm saying comfortability with nudity is completely okay. Like people are ashamed of their bodies here, but in like you see a lot of European countries not being ashamed of their bodies, and I think it causes more harm to be ashamed of your body than not being ashamed of your body. Like things like that. That's just one example.
I don't think being nude in public should be a barometer as to whether or not you're ashamed of your body.
I didn't say nude in public. I said being okay with nudity. I didn't say nude in public. I
Okay,
said okay with
nudity being in what context?
in context of movies and sculptures, things like that.
I think there's a general, isn't there like a general pushback against like nudity in media because of its just gratuitous nature? Like, wasn't this
in
like
the U.S., not in Europe?
No, I think pretty globally, like even in the context of like Game of Thrones and stuff, it was like, bro, do we need 19 sex scenes in the first season?
So you have countries
Yes.
like in Europe, and you have countries like in like Asian countries who are very, very conservative. So I'm talking in the context
I
of
know,
European countries like France, Italy, Greece.
I mean, I'm not as confident that it's just as ubiquitous as that, and I think there are arguments of the gratuity of like just throwing a sex scene inside of a show or a movie for the purpose of like for that aids no purpose to the actual plot. Like this
But
is a thing
I
that
didn't say
happened.
that in general. I was just saying with comfortability with conversating about sex. I said
Oh, sure,
representing the
conversation.
body more and being okay with nudity. I didn't say like okay with sex scenes, grotesque sex scenes. I said okay with just even showing a naked body. Doesn't matter what you look like. I think that gives more comfortability talking about sex, and I think a hookup
Hold on.
culture almost is um,
Finish your
in
point, then I have a
relation
question.
to this because it. Sorry, what'd you say?
Finish your point, then I have a question for you, Kirby.
Oh, I was saying in relation to all of this because it's just we're talking not about culture and we're having sex every single day. We're talking about comfortability when it comes to anything sexual. And that means the naked body is one of them. That means talking about how you feel when having sex or how you're uncomfortable when having sex, etc.
Let me ask you this, Kirby, though, right? Isn't that like a two-edged sword? We talk all the time, right, on streaming and other services about how the normalization of sex work, the normalization of OnlyFans, has made a lot of women very uncomfortable starting streaming because they worry that now that it's normalized, people will come into their chats and just overtly sexualize them and ask if they have an OnlyFans. And while, yes, they might have always, in all cases, gotten sexualized, right? That's what men do. It's now seen as okay, and in many cases, whoa, there he went.
My partner's gone.
In many cases, encouraged, right? I guess the question I have for you is, by opening up formerly taboo topics, aren't you worried that it's going to make it easier for men to kind of harass women? Let me give you an example, right? Would you feel comfortable if on a panel or in the chat someone just said, hey, you know what, Kirby, what's your OnlyFans? I would like your OnlyFans.
That happens 24/7 a day, but so yeah.
But is that good though that happens? Is the question.
So I think sex work is different than what we're talking about. I think these are completely separate topics.
But they're connected because you talked about normalization.
It's not really connected because you are comparing like sex work to what I'm talking about, being okay with
Okay with sexuality.
talking about sexuality.
Yes, but
Yeah, okay with talking about sexuality would constitute people being okay with asking you if you have an OnlyFans.
yes.
No,
Because
because
truly-
are we going to be fair?
Or
Then
asking you,
why
or
are
asking
No,
you for
I-
why are
sexual
people
favors.
asking you
or
if you have fans? Let's be fair about this,
People have.
because it comes down to it. That's what I said in the beginning. It comes down to sexism. End of the day, it's still sexism. Because if we're gonna be like constitute, one thing, everyone's okay with asking you about your sexuality if we're open to talking about, then it should be the same thing with every single man streamer.
But it's not.
It's
Well,
not because
I mean,
of sexism, and that's why it's
I'm
like
not sure-
hookups
I'm
are
not
so
sure
bad
that's
right now
even
because it's modern.
The case
women
because there's
right
lower
now.
demand. There's lower
Yeah,
demand.
just
so
women
I'm
don't
not sure that.
care.
It's
Yeah,
lower
women don't
demand, but
really
it's
care.
so the people who harass you aren't going to subscribe to you. A lot of people who ask you is just to call you a whore. That's their common thing.
That's fair enough, sure, but
They would go to
don't
your stream and be
deserve
like,
that.
okay, where's whore? Like in the same
But-
context as women as well. It's not to subscribe to you ever. Oh,
But-
sorry,
but-
partly.
Wick,
I
the
shouldn't say it.
hypothetical Wick put up is the idea of the greater normalization of it would cause people to be doing stuff like that,
Especially
even in
women.
earnest.
Especially
Yeah.
women. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's my
Especially
worry
women,
here,
sure.
is that women will
it's
be the
already happening,
brunt of this
especially to women.
normalization. Well,
I
they'll
think
take
it's
the
already
brunt of the penalties.
especially happening to women.
Yes, and given that that's the context we live in, right? And if I could snap my finger and change it, I would, but I can't. What I can do, however, is say, hey, this is going to be a taboo subject. This is pretty verboten. It would be uncouth to bring up sexuality in a streaming sense or just in general with people you don't know. And by normalizing hookup culture, what I worry about is that what we're doing is we're making it easier, or we're making a lot of women engage in behaviors that they do not find comfortable because that is seen as a norm. It's like a form of
I
peer
don't
pressure.
necessarily say that's even true, because like we can even turn to Asian culture. Now we don't have to sexualize. Again, we don't have to sexualize nudity, any of that, sex, any of that. It's just when I say hookup culture and like normalizing it, it's part of life. It's not like something that you get turned on by, right? So we looked at
You
talked
don't
about
get
Asian culture
turned
not
on
being
by
as open
hookup
to that.
culture? Like
No, hookup culture, I'm saying, is normalizing the sense of you're okay to talking about it, right?
Certainly, but once you're okay with,
Well, if you're engaging in the actual hookup, that's different. Okay.
So you're not okay with engaging in the actual hookup?
No, I'm okay. You're misunderstanding.
I am misunderstanding. Please try again.
Our current, where we are, the promotion of hookup culture almost feels like we're trying to revitalize certain aspects of us where we're okay with talking about sex, sex, comfortability, etc. You know?
Yes, but
But I'm not
is-
necessarily talking about the sexual aspect of it. We can get into the sexual aspect of it, but I don't think that's the whole part of hookup culture, in my opinion.
So you want to be able to talk about the sex, but not the sexual aspect of it?
No, I'm what? No, I think hookup culture is predominant in every culture, right? Hookup culture is there, but I'm saying that in the U.S. it's especially focused on because for some reason it's like honed in on because there's certain aspects that are like, oh, it's not okay to do this.
Well, Ahrelevant's point has been it's because it's harming people. It's making them less able to actually engage with people.
I know, and he wants more. He wants to inform the public more about certain aspects, and I think if you are more comfortable with talking about sex as a U.S. culture, then you would already be able to inform those aspects. That's my whole point. So it's kind of like chicken before the egg.
Go ahead,
My argument.
What comes first, egg or chicken? You know.
My argument is just that at the current moment, if the average populace, who are the predominant age group that would be engaging in this behavior, engage in it, I believe it will have worse outcomes on their primarily their emotional health, rather than if they didn't. So in kind of jumping off of what Tuna was saying again earlier, which I think is a very serious thing, is the lack of socialization. I think somebody who lacks socialization should not be engaging in casual sex. I think the jumping off point for somebody who lacks socialization should be just trying to establish a proper friend network. I don't think if you have like no friends, you should just be like, the first thing you should be doing is trying to go to a fucking party and figure out how to have sex with a woman. I think you should go to a party and try and figure out how to make a friend. And if that happens to be a woman, Godspeed.
So
I think
we're
that
really
these are the
bringing up the
things that-
party example, but it's like not many people go to parties. That's why I'm confused.
Yes,
about.
and so my point is we're experiencing, as Tuna put, a severe decline in socialization amongst young people. Increased amounts of
I don't
social
agree with that.
anxiety.
I think you're chronically online, and
Okay, I mean, the statistics show a significant increase in social anxiety.
We're talking about the same thing, really, here. I don't think we have to get in a fight on that, because when we are talking about socialization and sociality, we are also talking about like how to use your body in space, how to tell when people are uncomfortable with you based on facial expressions.
Exactly.
We're talking about like physical sociality.
Yeah, so Tuna, let's jump off of that. If we agree that we're experiencing a significant decline in that, would you say that it is a fruitful idea for people to be engaging in casual sexual relationships?
No, but it's a double bind, really, because the trick is most social spaces exist because of the desire to like bridge the gap between the sexes, whether or not it is for hooking up or it is for doing the sort of romancing that often leads to hooking up. So if you're too scared of hookup culture, a lot of those spaces cease to exist. It's kind of one of the main reasons people are going to fewer parties is because people are they're more aware of, and they're more, it's the idea of being roofied is at the front of their brain more so than the idea of meeting a good guy, right? Like that's the big shift. And I also think that, like, let's say that you don't have any friends, you go to a college space and you want to go to a party in order to make friends. The fact that the parties that do exist are only the people who are willing to break social conventions and go to an environment, they're more likely to be the people whose sole interest in that social sphere is to get a girl drunk and to have easy sex with her. You're not going to have as many. You need to hit a critical mass at a party to have it so that it's the norm to be at the party, just like it used to be the norm to go to the mall or the norm to go to any social space. You need to have the critical mass where a diversity of intentions is at play. I don't think that diversity of intentions is at play when you have like scant resources in the way that we do right now. The only people there are sex addicts, which is sort of like the issue.
Yeah,
I
what-
even looked up
Go
sex
ahead.
addiction before we got into this argument, and a lot of studies are showing that sex addiction is completely fake. 75% of sex addicts are like it's narcissism. The other 25% are already on a psychological decline. So like,
I'm not
they're
trying to
fulfill their hole. We're
when I
not
say
arguing
addiction to sex, I don't mean
I understand.
yeah.
Okay.
I obviously, I'm being slanderous. Really, what I truly mean, most of them, it is for affirmation. It's an emotional need. It's not like sex is a substance that you become addicted to. It plays off of an already existent insecurity.
If it's an emotional need, does that not become an addiction where they emotionally
No, so
need
like
it?
I just described, I was researching sex addiction because I saw that was one of your your points of argumenting. So 75% of sex addicts, they said they're narcissistics, and then 25% are already on a psychological decline.
But
where they have
does hookup
depression,
culture
they
not
have,
enable them?
anxiety?
Does hookup culture not enable them?
No, it starts from another place. The reason that there's a
That would-
distinction
It
is
starts.
because
Well, hold on. You didn't answer my question. I said, does hookup culture not enable them? You said it starts
I
from another
think
place.
it doesn't matter
But
what
does
enables. If
it
they're
not
narcissistic-
enable them?
If they're
It's against
narcissistic,
the point.
enable
it doesn't
them
matter
to-
if hookup culture is real or not. They can lie to a girl, and still get that hookup, and be like, "I'm in love with you."
No,
and then don't hook up with them.
not if hookup culture isn't so prevalent. If
Okay,
hookup
then they
culture's
go on a
prevalent-
date with them, 2 dates with them, and then hook up with them.
But
Same shit.
Can I jump
Any-
off of
any-
what
That's
Tuna
not
was saying,
good.
because I thought it was really, I actually agreed with pretty much every word that came out of Tuna's mouth earlier, and I thought it was really
Go ahead.
insightful, actually. So when Tuna was speaking about specifically like parties and stuff being latent, especially as with social decline, you're seeing an overrepresentation of people who have primarily the intention of like sex or stuff in the forefront of their mind when they're engaging in these otherwise, what used to be otherwise innocuous, or as you put it, socially diverse or output diverse activities. I agree with this, but I don't think the solution is to say that like, hey, you should be engaging in or going to these parties with the hope of hooking up too. I think it should be, yes, I understand people go to parties, hoping to maybe be able to hook up, but we should be going to parties and normalizing the idea of just being friends with people, just making friends. And if you want to make friends with women, that's cool, but you're not explicitly trying to go there exclusively just to hook up with women.
Yeah.
I
and find at the
agree.
party.
I agree.
And not only
I
would that
agree.
make it a more fruitful environment for the men, because I mean, listen, we need friends, we're hurting, but also because the men going to these environments are not going to be going there with the goal and the aim to hook up with women, which will naturally protect women more because they're not going to be like
One of the yeah,
preyed
one
This
of,
sounds great,
yeah,
but I'm
just-
going
by
to
these.
pose this next problem. Alcohol is introduced. There you go.
Okay, that's not an excuse for poor behavior, so it's just
It
not
is an
relevant.
excuse for poor behavior.
It's an explanation at least. It's at least an explanation.
It's a correlation even. We can look at so much of
Correlation,
this
but
research
I don't
I
think it's an
did I did
excuse.
among these young people who said, oh, hookup culture at least increases, maybe sexual violence, and it's because of alcohol. Everything is because of alcohol.
But that doesn't make it.
I reject.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Other than with alcohol.
Okay, so sexual violence is correlated to alcohol abuse. So that means that because people drank, that men should be able to abuse a woman
Nope.
because they're
No
drunk
one-
on alcohol?
No.
Nope. You're in a
Of
room where
course
no one
not,
believes
but
that.
there's way more regret
No.
when alcohol is introduced. Like when they're both sober and it's just
That doesn't make it any better. That
doesn't.
doesn't make it any better. Just because you
Go to a
drank
higher
and
level
you,
of conversation.
that doesn't make it any better. Okay, you hooked up with someone, you felt bad about it. That doesn't make it any better. You should feel bad about the fact that you hooked
Julie.
up with someone that you didn't actually like.
I don't agree.
We're having a
with
different conversation. We're talking about specifically people, like when there's an alcohol as default socialization environment, people are more likely to get into situations where they aren't actually aware of how drunk they are. They
Because
aren't aware.
hookup culture,
Or
because
we brought up the point of
hookup
hooking
culture
up.
is so prevalent. Oh
No.
So we brought up the point of hooking up at parties, and we should look for friendship instead of hookups. But I think when alcohol is introduced, our monkey brains are like, oh, we're gonna hook up. And we see a hot woman, man. Oh, monkey brain.
I
we're gonna hook
reject
up.
this idea that regardless of socialization,
You've never been
the
drunk.
moment
How,
that
how would you know?
okay, let me just finish my sentence. Regardless of socialization, that the moment that you get drunk, you just default to chimp brain. This is ridiculous.
you gotta
Like
get
this
drunk.
idea.
My
No,
guy,
this is-
get drunk and then tell me.
No, this is
Really?
ridiculous.
We
Hold on.
Really?
No,
From
no,
I would-
stop,
From
stop.
experience.
Hold on, let Irrelevant
Please,
let
stop.
Irrelevant go.
This
Irrelevant,
this
please.
idea, because what you're saying is that the moment that I drink, regardless of the way that I was raised, the way that everything, all of my prior socialization is entirely thrown out the window. This is ridiculous. There are
Yes.
certain ways.
I'm telling you
this
right
is
now,
ridic-
yes.
So no, because if that was true, then regardless of circumstance, in all manners across the entire planet, everyone would
Yes.
act identically when they're drunk. That is not true. People are socialized.
Agree.
No, it is not. It is not
Agree.
true. There
Agree.
is different cultures that have different attitudes and dispositions towards drinking that cause them to
Agree.
be more comfortable doing specific things and more comfortable doing other things.
Irrelevant.
This is
Yeah,
why
I just feel like this is a learn from.
now, this is
experience
so
kind of thing.
condescending and ridiculous. This idea
It's
that you
not
can go to this.
condescending at all. It's
yes,
like
it,
it's all.
yes,
it's,
it is.
you-
You're trying to appeal to
It
something
is
that's so
condescending.
ridiculous.
It
I
is
was raised
condescending.
okay, right? I was
This-
raised with good parents and all that, and I still think I'm a pathetic piece of shit drunk. And so
That
it's
That doesn't
that's
matter.
That doesn't matter. That's not
It's nothing about
correlated to what I'm
you.
talking
It's
about. What?
exactly correlated. I was raised with the what?
It's
Good
not
manners, good fucking
correlated.
family. All
You
of
are
that,
an
and it's-
antidote. Kirby, you are an antidote. That's not
it's
correlated
not
to
an
what's actually
anecdote
going
because
on.
This is a,
Okay.
completely under the influence.
Let's settle down, gang. I want to bring
It's
up.
an entire nail tonight. Look at that. I lost an entire
impressive.
nail.
This idea that every single culture in the entire world has the exact same manner in which they act when they're drunk is ridiculous. It is absolutely
Very similar.
ridiculous. You
very
could
similar.
no. You can go to like
Really?
a frat party and where a bunch of
Wrong
people
with
get
people
drunk.
is
I've
not
been to
You can see the
the
normal.
difference.
world, and I've
and you
seen a
can
lot of
see
drunk people.
Yes, and I
Being
understand.
around with
And I'm
strangers
gonna
is
hold
not
on.
normal.
I'm gonna finish my sentence because everyone's gonna understand how ridiculous this is. You can go to a frat party and get drunk and see how people interact when they get drunk versus a party where there's a bunch of adults, maybe like a work function or something like that, and people get drunk. People are not fucking every single time there's
They're
a
not
work
as
function
drunk.
ripping off their shirt, fucking screaming and shit like this from the
Been to
top of
both.
the hills.
Been to both, and sometimes they do.
Sometimes, but you're acting like the prevalence is 1-to-1. Your argument necessitates the prevalence to be 1-to-1. You said, regardless of socialization, regardless of culture, you act identically when you're drunk. That is ridiculous.
Yes, you act like a drunken fool. Yeah, that's identical.
No,
you act
no,
like
no,
a
no.
fucking
Drunken
idiot, no
fool-
matter your fucking
the way
standards.
that certain
No,
cultures act
no.
when they're
Okay.
certain
Really?
Can we
people-
hold on? Can we just acknowledge that drinking alcohol, no matter who you are, no matter what culture you're with, will lower your inhibitions. You will be
Yes,
less able
you're
to
a
make
fucking
confident.
idiot. Yes, I
That will
agree.
manifest itself
That
in different
doesn't mean it
ways
makes it okay,
depending
but
on.
that doesn't mean it makes it okay just because your
It
inhibitions
does-
are lowered.
No,
That
that's-
actually
I've never
doesn't-
heard
I-
you say,
I
oh,
believe-
the
Actually-
original
that
statement
actually
wasn't
proves-
that.
No one thinks that. No one thinks that. No one thinks
that
that.
actually
Shadow
that
boxing.
actually shows that it's wrong. Your inhibitions are lowered, so no people should just fuck each other all the time.
No.
That actually shows that it's not good. That's not what people should be engaging in. You drink alcohol and now you're fucking people that you don't even know, that you're not even interested just because you want to get fucked. That shit, that should not be happening.
That's true. It should not, but
Rick?
that's not the point of what I'm trying to say here.
I'm sorry,
Rick,
I'm
can I
sorry,
build-
Wick.
It's-
I'm
you're
sorry.
fine,
I'm
it's
sorry,
fine.
baby. I'm
Um,
sorry.
Can I build a bridge, Wick?
I'll shut up.
In a moment, right? In a moment. But I do want to bring up another point that I find to be an interesting thing that we haven't gotten to yet, because we talk about.
How fucking blitzed Julie is right now.
No, we're not going to talk about
Leave
that right
me
now.
alone, bitch! I don't care if I'm blitzed. Why don't you shut your fucking pie hole? Fuck you.
My
No, just shut up,
question,
Julie.
right? Or actually my kind of comment, which leads to the question. And thank you for the raid, Duckbringer. I appreciate you.
Now that's a hookup.
We
queen.
have a situation that I've talked about on this panel several times.
That's a hookup
Shh,
queen?
shh,
Or are you?
shh.
What,
Julie, shut up,
no,
shut up.
because
Oh,
Shut up. Let Wick finish.
Oh, I'll get through it. I
I'm
promise.
gonna get angry.
Don't get angry. Don't get
but-
angry. It has nothing to
No,
do
because
with.
talking about that's a hookup queen because just because she's drunk, okay. So what
Not
you
no
like
one-
taking
not
advantage
you,
of a woman
Julie.
when she's
Not you,
hammered?
Julie. Not you, Julie. We were talking about somebody else.
Okay.
Why do you eat a dick and fucking fuck a
I
tuna?
guess I won't be able to get my point across or
told you, Wick,
you got
question.
this.
I don't
Why
know
do
what
you
this
fuck a
is.
tuna?
This is a disaster, gang.
Wick
Okay,
just
I'm
barrel through.
sorry, Wick. I'm sorry.
you're fine.
Ignore her.
My question is, we have
Ignore
a situation.
her. Ignore you, bitch.
Okay, we have a situation where men
hold on, I'm gonna
are
mute myself.
afraid
It's
to
fine.
approach. I'm gonna say it. Men are afraid to approach women. Men are worried that they're going to do something wrong. They're going to be seen as a creep. They're going to be seen as less than. They are afraid to instigate any kind of interaction, whether it be friendly or otherwise, or romantic, sexual. It doesn't matter. Wouldn't the kind of normalization of hookup culture, or at least the more kind of acceptance of hookup culture, help with that? Because I see the opposite at play, right? I really do. I see that people are so scared of being seen as a creep that they've stopped trying. They just stopped approaching women at all because they don't want to do it wrong. I want to talk about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't believe that would have the effect, and I could posit that it could have the opposite effect even. The normalization of the idea that men approaching women, that we all just might be looking for a hookup, and that's like a totally okay thing or whatever. I have no issue if somebody wants to practice hookup culture, but this idea in your mind that whenever a guy interacts with you, that is totally socially acceptable, that he's probably just trying to hook up with you, like this idea would make it more likely that a woman would be antagonistic towards your approach in comparison to a approach of just like, hey, maybe this person just genuinely does like my shoes, like they just complimented me for my shoes. Maybe they're just genuinely trying to get to know me as a person. This normalization of, hey, every time a guy interacts with you, he's trying to have sex with you, I think is a massive contributor to the exact problem that you're referring to in of what you're saying, Wick. A lot of men are worried about coming off as a creep. A lot of that perception comes from the idea that men are preying or want to have sex with every single woman they interact with. or
think
at
that
least all of the women that they
normalization
approach.
that normalization also comes off on women. They're like, okay, this is what every woman does. They fuck with a dude who is not really interested in them. It's normal to just have sex with people. Like it doesn't really mean anything. It's normal for women to think, who cares? Why shouldn't we just have sex?
Why shouldn't
Who
we?
cares? Why shouldn't we just have sex?
That's a good question.
I don't know where that point's coming from. But
I
as a
no,
woman,
I was adding-
as someone who has been hit on many times, I don't think the men coming up to me are automatically saying, "Hey, I want to have sex with you." Okay, that's not my mentality.
Sure, but you understand a lot of men have that fear. They fear rejection. They fear being
that rejection
seen.
because they think that I automatically want to have sex with them. I feel like that's a them problem rather than a me problem. Like, why?
I believe it's the inverse. They believe that you think that all they want out of you is sex. And so
but,
therefore they're put on
let's
guard.
pretend they did or didn't. Like, I think it's probably a more societal problem based off of like how you approach a woman. Like you're a very big advocate of personality versus anything else. And it's like, if you're coming up to me randomly, I don't know you at all, you clearly like me for looks, like, right? You don't know my personality, so you
Not
clearly want to get to
necessarily.
know me.
Maybe the way you dress. Maybe the way that you carry yourself. Maybe you're holding
Yeah, but
something or
again,
carrying something
this
that
is all
has some.
outward image versus inward image. Because again,
What
you
outward
originally
image?
talked about
The way that you dress can.
What is?
show
Hold
something
on, I
about
just gotta ask, right, Kirby? What is wrong if someone sees you, they think you're attractive, and shoots their shot? What's wrong with that?
I never said anything wrong with it. It was him.
Irrelevant.
No,
I
okay.
didn't say
Can
there's
I?
anything wrong with that. What I
No,
said
because
is that
you kept
men.
saying that you want a deeper relationship, a deeper like friendship versus someone who like wants someone only for looks. Oh, he has to be a certain height. He has to be a certain thing.
No.
But if you go up to
What?
a woman and just like ask her out, you clear other like
No.
if they dress nice, well, that's still looks.
What I was saying is that hookup culture enforces a normalization of reducing our value down to physical appearance. So like the normalization of like, hey, we're just gonna have sex with a bunch of people. If people are just looking to have sex, they're going to judge you almost exclusively on your physical appearance. And that value system is going to manifest onto most people, or I shouldn't say most people, on some people emotionally, right? If like a manifestation of this is Tinder. Tinder is a great example where it's like, hey, it's I'm here to hook up, and the
Most of our
means
friends
to
have
be
met
able to
their long-term
determine that,
relationships from Tinder.
sure, but
Depends
the
how you
means to be
present
able to
yourself.
determine that is primarily off of their physical appearance.
But that's
Relly,
hold on, just real
Relly,
quick.
can I?
Go ahead, Tuna. But no, hold on, stop, Tuna. I wanna address this before I forget. Irrelevant. That's a artifact of apps. It's an artifact of
Oh no,
apps. I'll give you an
but
example. I'll give you an example. Before apps and stuff like that, or even now, right? Because I grew up before apps. If I see a woman, yes, I'm attracted to their looks, obviously, but what they say and how they act and what they how they carry themselves and how we interact can either turn me on more or turn me off completely. So while yes,
agree.
it gets your foot in the door to be a pretty girl, right? It doesn't get you the full lick. Okay, you got to earn that shit.
I could even
Okay.
further that and say going up to a girl you randomly see in a store is less than an app because it's like you're going up to a girl and be like, "What's your number?" and then you both carry on your day. Like you don't know if you like that person.
I mean, I'm gonna roll it back. Number one, the personality versus the looks thing, they are not as divorced as you think. Hookup culture doesn't play off of just looks. That's an easy thing to imagine. That's what it is.
That's
but
what
like
he said, not me.
people look more similar to one. I'm replying to both. I'm not just like against you, Kirby. I'm saying like people look more similar to one another when you're in a tight social scene. People look more similar to one another. Then like the variance does come from how outgoing they are, what their personality is, what energy they get up. Are they fun? That's the type of thing that a lot of people are hooking up with, to be honest. And most of the time when a person goes on a second date, third date, the type of situation where even in modern hookup culture, people aren't usually going back to a person's house immediately. They go on a date or go to a movie. And if the guy gives off a vibe that he's not going to abuse her, then it's going for it. So it's still filtering through personality. Personality is still a big part of this. I don't think they I don't think this because he's attracted to me, I am being devalued is really there. Women are choosing during these dates, during these like extremely accessible dates, who gets to get through the filter. And I understand guys being sort of like scared to go up to the filter because they've seen the Me Too stuff. They've seen people get canceled when it really was just a scornful ex taking advantage of the new technology we have around consent. But genuinely, fundamentally, these women do want to have sex with men who are interesting, fun, not just attractive, and vice versa. So it's like there is still personality at play. It is not reducing you. And I don't think most people, unless they let themselves be reduced down to just their body, are actually being reduced to down just to their body.
Okay, so can I just posit a simple question to everybody? Do you think you're more or less likely to judge or value somebody based off of their physical appearance if you're trying to just have sex with them versus being friends with them or date them?
More or less?
More or less, based on their physical appearance, value them.
More or less.
Pretty easy question.
It's a little bit of both, obviously, but yeah, you're much more likely to care. You're much less likely to care about personality with a hookup than with a long-term partner. I think that's what you're.
Okay,
you're
now
hinting at.
we're speaking English, correct? Yes. So
Yeah.
with that being the case,
I don't
if
really
this
care.
is more, okay, well, no. Do you think most people would?
It's to a
Oh,
degree.
sure.
It's to a degree.
I agree that. Sure. Most people.
Okay,
Any
so
degree.
most people, if they're going to engage in hookups, are probably just going to care that you're hot. That's probably primarily what they're going to care about. If you're looking for a friendship, especially, but if you're looking for a relationship, you're probably going to care a lot more about the personality.
Hot or get along. I think some people struggle to like even like be around that.
I'm just talking about one specific parameter, and the
I
purpose
agree
of
that-
speaking about the specific parameter is
Really,
to illustrate.
That's step one. What I'm arguing is that you actually have to go through, even though it doesn't take very long, you have to go through multiple stages to get
I
through those
understand.
filters.
I agree, but when we're talking about sex specifically, we're talking about when somebody's mode is on sex, the primary thing that they're going to care about is whether or not they're physically attracted to you. And then, yes, I agree that their personality stuff like that matters. I don't disagree with that in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, so
But
when you go in a grocery store and ask a girl for her number, what matters most? Her random personality that you can't see, or how she physically looks?
Which aisle is she in?
What aisle do you like?
She got Durex in the box in the cart.
My point is like the start of this whole thing is the same thing.
No, I don't agree. I think that, so in the context of like approaching somebody, we could talk about like some stuff that they're like maybe wearing or stuff like that.
You keep going to
And it
wearing, but
depends
like
on
even
why.
with like hookups, a lot already are conversating for a little bit, right? At like a party, it's not like you just randomly just go and make
Yes,
out and like just go have sex. You're usually conversating a little bit.
Yeah, to
At a
Kirby's
grocery store,
point.
you're barely conversating at all.
Yeah, to Kirby's
You're just
point.
like, oh,
The hookups that I've engaged in, right? It hasn't been because of my looks. It's because they're attracted to my personality, right? And they're fine with my looks, right? It's not a turn off, right? But they like how I am when I'm chatting them up. And that's a success rate for me, right?
Right, yeah.
So this idea that especially with women that all they're looking for is the hottest guy, that is true on apps perhaps, but if you go to a party and you want to get laid as
I
a guy,
just don't agree.
you don't
we
agree
can
with
talk
that?
about
You
that
don't.
in- No, I am agreeing with
there's
you,
more
but
to
I
it.
don't
Okay.
agree with that. It's just about.
Yeah,
Can I-
it's far more than that. Like this idea that like I'm Ahrelevant. You're a pretty decent looking fellow, no homo or anything, right? That so you
Thanks.
perhaps
But your
relied on your
personality
looks.
sucks, bro.
Yeah, well, no, you've
No,
relied. Hold on, you've
no.
relied on your. Hold on, let me get this out. You've relied on your looks so much that you have internalized that that's what gets you laid and that's what gets everyone laid, and that's just not true. For us
agree with that.
guys, right? We have other ways. We have other tactics, and one of those things is actually talking to them, making them laugh, making them smile, and these things and that'll get you in the door 50% of the time, right? So it's
Well,
this idea that again on apps you're absolutely correct, but off apps I just disagree with you. I don't think that's true.
So this idea that I believe that it's primarily like looks that determine whether or not you have sex, or that it's the thing that matters the most. No, I'm saying it matters more when we're talking about people who are engaging in it. This is why I asked the simple question. Do you think it matters more, looks, to people who are trying to have sex versus the people who are trying to make friends or start a relationship? And pretty ubiquitously, if we understand like human beings, the answer is going to be, yeah, it's going to matter more. If people are trying to have sex, like they're going to care more about the way that people look than they would maybe the personality.
In
Like, this is a
part,
pretty
but
intuitive idea.
the thing I'm trying to stress here is that inside somebody's looks is more than just the carnal attraction. There is also an intuitive sense of whether or not they would be good in bed, an intuitive sense of whether or not you would be able to have a conversation. There's a lot in looks, and women, when they are using these apps, even when they're not using the apps, especially when they're not using the apps, but even when they're using the apps, if you talk to one while they're doing their finger scrolling, good looks is not enough. Sometimes people are just like, pretty boy, fuck boy, keep scrolling until you find somebody who is, as the Simpsons have said, a non-threatening male who is also pretty. Like there are multiple things contained inside of the picture.
You make a great point. When I see a man who's obsessed with working out, I'm like, this guy's gonna beat me. Like that's my immediate thought. You make a great point. Just say.
He's got
I don't. But what you're just describing is that you can communicate different things through your physical appearance, your looks.
I just don't understand this idea, like, Ahrelevant, that if I'm looking for an actual relationship versus a hookup, that I would be less, like, I would value looks less in that situation. I wouldn't. I don't want to have a relationship with an ugly person, right? I just don't.
No, it's when we're talking about less, we're
of-
not talking about like you would have a relationship with an ugly person. We're talking about in the list of priorities, you would care a lot. So, for
Looks is
instance,
a-
if you met
looks is
somebody,
a threshold.
About a distribution of
we-
percentage.
Again,
yeah.
so
So
we are
if you
saying-
if you met somebody at a party, right, and you were looking to have sex with them versus like be in a relationship with them, you would care more that they're hot in order to have sex with them than you would, like, let's say if they're just unassuming looking, like they're just very normal or average. I guess.
It's a threshold, Ahrelevant. It's a
relationship.
threshold. If they meet that threshold, I'll put my dick in it. Okay. Now,
Okay,
whether I
let's
care
go
about their
put my dick in it.
personality
It's
is a different
crazy.
question.
Well, no, I
don't agree.
understand,
I don't
But that
agree.
threshold's
I
the
don't-
same for a
I don't
hookup or
agree.
for a
I feel
long-term
like this is-
relationship.
I feel like this is a pretty
I don't
alien
agree.
experience for a lot of people, that there's a lot of people who will look at a very, very attractive person and like that will get them to want to talk to them, do all these different things
hold
in
on.
comparison to a very average looking person.
Can I say something? I feel like there's a threshold of girls that you will put your dick in that you don't care about, and there's a threshold of girls that you will put your dick in that you actually care about. And I feel like the
That is
majority
true.
of people, you shouldn't be putting your dick in women that you don't fucking care about. I don't think that's good for you, and I don't think that's good for society. Frankly, it's fucking embarrassing. You're fucking woman that you don't give a shit about. Don't you feel bad about yourself? Like that's like
Percentage-wise, they actually
ridiculous.
don't feel bad about themselves.
They should. They
Men
should.
feel
That's
pretty-
like
feel pretty decent.
that's grotesque. That's grotesque. You're fucking woman for the sake of fucking woman for the sake of using them. That's
That's it.
embarrassing.
I mean, yeah.
You're going on a date with Wick right now.
No,
You're going on a
that
date with
shit's
Wick right now. You're going on a date with Wick right now. Stand by your word. What are you, some kind of conceited whore?
What do you mean?
Stand by
I'm
your
going.
word.
Let's calm
What do
down
you
about the
mean?
work on it.
Yeah.
You're
what do
going
you,
on a date with Wick right now. Spaghetti.
What does that even mean?
I'm
What do you,
talking shared
is
piece
that?
of spaghetti. Kiss at the end.
what do you even like?
What are
do
we
you want me
talking
to
about?
She's
do?
drunk. Let's not harass her.
No, but
Calm
like,
down.
I'm
does
not
he?
trying to harass
But
her.
does
I'm saying
does he even
he knows
understand what
that
he's
women do
even
that
talking
too.
about? No, but
You're
does he
judging
even?
it. You're judging. You're the same.
But you're putting me and Wick specifically in that judgment.
Okay,
That doesn't
Yep.
equate. That doesn't equate.
You're the
That
same as
doesn't
Can I
Wick.
make
You're
a
equate.
judging
statement?
Wick. You're
That doesn't
judging Wick.
equate.
Because
Forget it.
this
That
goes
doesn't
against
equate.
this entirely.
That doesn't equate. It's like totally out of bounds. Like it's embarrassing that you would even fucking put that into fucking sphere. Like that's like a joke.
I'm trying to relate to you by doing embarrassing things.
It's not a relation. You're
My
fucking.
guy, let's chill out, Julie. Obviously, she's drunk. We don't need to
Yeah, I
harass
know.
her when we're sober.
Okay,
too easy.
Ahrelevant. Did you have something to say?
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah,
Take it
so,
away.
So just running it back. All right, just very specifically, so I can lay this out because there seems to be some confusion maybe with my position. I'm lightly against hookup culture on the basis that I believe that the average person who would be engaging in it, is not as or not going to be engaging in what I would consider to be a healthier, mature fashion. Like Tuna talked about, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunists who take advantage of it. But and I think there's also going to be a large set of people who are not going to be engaging in it in a healthy manner, just not only physically but also emotionally. But also the further compounding off of that, the lack of socialization that we see amongst the primary group that would be engaging inside of this would show that these people need to, instead of focusing on having sex with people, casual sex with people, they need to focus on establishing friendships with people. If we want to say hookup culture includes having casual sex with people that you've been friends with for a long period of time, or establish good, strong friendships with, then maybe I'd be more amenable to it than I have been inside of this conversation. But that's just where it lands for me, is that I think people are going to experience emotionally traumatic situations more often and not know what to do with that trauma because of our lack of socialization, our lack of understanding, than they would if they did not engage in hookup culture.
Agree. Mega agree.
Okay.
Mega agree.
Are you both familiar with the concept of anti-fragility?
Anti-fragility? No.
Fragility. Okay, so one of the things that Jonathan Chait, I don't know how to say his name, wrote about, right, is the concept of how we have become too fragile, that by coddling our kids, right, by coddling college kids, by never exposing them to anything that could give them a traumatic experience, right, we have done them a disservice.
I don't think this is a good enough excuse. I really don't think it is.
Wait, let him finish.
We have done them a disservice. We have made a generation of The Coddling of the American Mind is a book, if you want to read it, right? Where we have raised a generation of pansies, basically, of people who can't do basic tasks, can't call up people. Do you know how many younger people I've had that can't call someone on the phone?
We're talking about hookup culture, and you're talking about
the concept is similar.
I think he's
I understand.
So when you talk about when your argument irrelevant is that we should dissuade people from engaging in hookup culture because they might have more traumatic experiences. I just reject that argument on its face because I don't think that having risk of traumatic experiences can actually help us. It can help us become anti-fragile.
But not only that, I think we dissuade it already. I think this is silly.
Heavily.
I agree that
we dissuade a lot of these things, and humans still do it. We dissuade drugs. Like most humans do it.
Hookup culture is not drugs. It's a very different it's very different compared to drugs. I don't agree.
It's very similar compared to drugs. You get addicted, you crave it,
but
you have
you
have depression, you have
But it's different in the fact that people don't like when people look at drug addicts, they look at them like fucking meth addicts. They look at them like heroin addicts. They look at them pieces of shit. When people look at sex addicts, they're like, oh, he just can't control himself, but he can still have sex with people. They look at they give sex addicts.
You're for the side of people having sex? I'm confused.
No, I'm not for the side of people having sex.
People can still have sex, but they don't look at them like drug addicts?
No, I think sex should be not regulated. Sorry, I'm looking for the word.
Regulated?
So
I'm saying right now, drugs are regulated.
Sex regulators. Okay. So.
Shut up. I think sex should be it shouldn't be encouraged. It shouldn't be encouraged.
Yeah, so it's
random
encouraged.
people.
That was my point. Neither is drugs.
It is encouraged. If you think
matter,
sex,
so it's encouraged, but drugs
you're
are not
so
encouraged.
fucking insane. You're so fucking insane.
Matter.
If you think,
I'm saying right now.
If you think sex to this day is not fucking encouraged,
let's flip the
sex
switch.
is absolutely encouraged.
That's great. I'm so proud.
Sex is encouraged in the way that it wasn't fucking 40 years ago.
Flip the switch.
In the 1980s.
I don't care.
It was all mothers.
I agree with you.
Right. So now it's been encouraged.
Drugs are not encouraged. Cigarettes are not encouraged. People still do them. That's my point.
Cigarettes is a really bad example. Their use has dropped like ungodly in America.
Kirby,
Right
you're
now,
also
multiple things that
Kirby,
access
you're
of alternatives.
you're
People do
making you're
It's not
making
explicitly
right
true.
now.
you're
Just through
making a bad
alternatives. It's correlated
explanation
even
in the
prior
way
to
that sex
alternatives.
isn't encouraged in the way that it was before. You're making a bad explanation. Like you're genuinely making a bad explanation.
Ow.
That's it.
Because you're
Prohibit alcohol.
because
That's what we need. Fewer
Sorry.
slurring women saying stupid things and fewer people getting raped while they're drunk. Two birds, one stone.
Calm down. How am I making a bad argument?
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Don't calm down. Can you shut the fuck up, Tunachip?
No,
Do you
I
have
told
the
him to calm down.
capability of shutting the fuck up?
I've been waiting for you to give me a lesson in it.
You want to talk about women getting raped when they're drunk, and you're making fun of me for being drunk, and then also making fun of women for being raped while they're drunk? Why don't you shut your fucking pie hole if you're such a fucking feminist? Why don't you eat
Not me.
shit? Like,
Hell
literally,
yeah.
why don't you fucking eat shit?
Okay.
Like, literally, you're a fucking embarrassment.
Hey, she can say that.
You're
I'll say that.
you're
Why don't we do
talking.
this? It's been
You're
2 hours of
You're such a fucking embarrassment talking about we should protect women when they're drunk and protect them from rape. And I hate when women get raped when they're drunk, but the 1 minute that I'm drunk and you're like, oh yeah, she deserves it. She's an idiot. She's stupid.
okay.
Never
We're
saw that.
going.
You're fucking ridiculous.
We're going.
You're
We're going.
fucking so
We're
fucking
going.
retarded.
We're going.
You are fucking retarded. You
We're
are
going,
fucking
Julie.
retarded.
Julie.
No, there is
Julie.
no
Julie,
retarded.
calm down. Julie.
Julie. We're
No,
gonna
we'll
go.
talk about it after.
We're gonna go to closing statements because it's been 2 hours, and my
But
God.
Julie, can we start with Julie?
I don't have anything
Gang.
to say. This bitch is a piece of shit.
Gang,
I don't
hold
have
on,
anything to
hold
say.
on, hold on. Let me get it out, and then we'll get to closing statements. You can have your say if you like. So, gang, if for whatever reason you've enjoyed tonight's content, hit that
That's
like
great.
button, hit that
I loved it.
subscribe button, hit that follow button if you're following this on Twitch or on Kick. I don't know if we might have to do another panel on this because I don't know if we got anywhere tonight, but
We got
I
nowhere.
hope it's
I'll
been
tell you
fun.
that much.
Next week we got some great shows coming up. Monday we're going to talk about the new Supreme Court decision on injunctions. On Wednesday, we're going to host the trial of Tali, where she answers for her crimes for voting for Trump. And then on Friday we're going to have Lonerbox on and some others to talk about interventionalism. So tune in for that on July 4th, I believe. So happy Independence Day, Pax Americana forever. That said, each of these lovely individuals has been linked in my YouTube chat. You can go and you click their links. You can follow them. You can hit the like button or the subscribe button on whatever they have. But I'm going to give them each an outro, a final say, final words, and then we will close this shit out because goddamn. Let's start with Tunachip, and we're going to end with Kirby. And that's the order we're going to go in. Tunachip, closing
Cool.
thought.
Sounds good. Yeah, closing thought. Still hold firm that the casual sex and the culture around it is acting, as it is always, as a scapegoat for changes in the culture, specifically technological changes, social changes that need a different approach other than just saying less casual sex, less X, Y, Z. If we address those problems by just pulling casual sex out of the culture, trying to shame it, trying to discourage it, all we're going to really do is take the people that participate anyway and put them in a more private, more exploitable position. That's pretty much it.
Where can people find you, Tuna?
I'm not doing that much lately, but you could find me on YouTube. I've got a YouTube. I've got some content that I'm looking to upload lately.
Check them out, gang. Thank you for being here. Ahrelevant.
Yeah, AH Relevant on all the platforms. I am still in my position. I unfortunately don't think we got to matters of significant substance, but just closing out, kind of to respond to what Wick said, because I didn't get a chance, was the trauma thing. I don't think just because there's a chance of trauma, it should not be done. The argument is that it is just not as healthy for people per capita as, for instance, in my opinion, going after long-term relationships or even friendships. These things I think should be done first and foremost. But I wish that we had gotten a little bit more into the information that indicates that the correlation between sexual partners and long-term marital and relationship satisfaction. as well as just the intuitive idea that I really wanted to get into, which was how many sexual partners you have. People have a very unfortunate habit of comparing people to one another. So if you have a bunch of sexual partners, you may not be as satisfied with this partner's performance in this way or that partner's performance in that way. People have a very unfortunate
See,
situation
I would have
where
a
they
counter
become
statement, but we're
Frankenstein's
not
people.
there.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's just unfortunate because I would have loved to have people's response to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
Okay, Julie, your time to shine.
Gang, 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 gang. I yeah, I don't really
Shout
have
yourself out.
anything.
And say why you hate hookup culture. I don't know.
If she doesn't have anything, she doesn't have anything. It's fine. It's whatever.
I go by Psychic Cat online, but I just like feel bad. I feel like I derailed. I feel like I genuinely derailed by being a retard. And I kind of feel
You
bad
just yelled
right
at
now.
the guy a lot. It's fine. Who cares?
Yeah, but that's not. I feel bad, kind of.
No, don't feel bad.
We're gonna give it the last word to Kirby.
I would
Kirby.
have liked.
Yeah, Curvafine. I stream sometimes, every once in a while. If we get into a further topic about this, I would love to get into the debate about sexism. I think that is a huge counterpoint to this whole debate about hookup culture. I think that it's very prominent in what we deem okay and not okay.
We can set that up for any time you like. A debate on sexism. Just let me know.
Sexism or surrounding hookup culture.
I
think
understand.
now that's more prominent with women hooking up, we have more of a problem with it. That's
I get what you mean.
final point.
Okay, with that, gang, I'm done. I'm going to say goodnight. Thank you to all the people who were here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Bye-bye, everyone.